Lunara City never slept. It only closed one eye and watched itself in the mirror of the ocean. Every night, when the traffic lights blinked like tired stars and the wind carried the smell of salt and smoke, a girl walked barefoot through the streets with paint on her hands and fire in her chest. Her name was Emily Solis. She painted on broken walls. Not flowers, not advertisements. She painted dreams. Faces of women wearing invisible crowns. Children standing on clouds. Lovers holding light instead of hands. The city called her crazy. The poor called her brave. The night called her daughter. Emily lived in a one-room house with a leaking roof and a brother whose lungs sounded like paper tearing when he slept. Every night she whispered to him, "Sleep, Rafa. Tomorrow will be kinder." But tomorrow was rarely kind. She sold small paintings in the daytime near the bus station. Tourists bought them and asked, "Who taught you?" She answered, "Pain." On the night everything changed, rain fell like a confession. Emily stood before a tall gray wall beside the richest tower in Lunara City. Her fingers trembled as she dipped into gold paint she could barely afford. She drew a woman rising from dust, wearing a crown made of stars. Behind her, a man watched. Elian Cross had never walked these streets before. His shoes cost more than Emily's house. He had escaped a gala, escaped champagne, escaped lies, and then he saw her, a girl painting royalty out of ruin. "Why a crown?" he asked softly. Emily jumped, turned. Her eyes were stormy. "Because even dust deserves a throne," she said. Something inside Elian broke open. He had been raised among crowns, but he had never seen one born from dirt. They talked until the rain softened. Elian didn't tell her his name. She didn't ask. He listened to her stories about hunger, about Rafa, about dreams that refused to die. She listened to his silence. Before leaving, he said, "If the world gave you everything, what would you build?" She answered, "A place where broken people learn how to love themselves again." That night, the richest man's son fell in love with the poorest artist in Lunara City, and neither of them knew it yet. The crown had begun forming, not from gold, but from dust and dreams. The city was still wet from the rain. Emily walked home with paint on her hands and a strange feeling in her chest, as if a door had opened inside her and refused to close again. She kept hearing his voice. Why a crown? She had not answered him fully. She had answered with poetry, but something in his eyes had asked a deeper question. When she reached her small house, Rafa was coughing in his sleep. She sat beside him and wiped his forehead. "I met a man tonight," she whispered to the darkness. "He looked like he belonged to another world." The moon watched her through the cracked window. She dreamed of a man standing inside a wall of light, holding her painting like a promise. The next night, she returned to the same wall. She did not know why. Maybe hope is just memory pretending to be courage. And he was there. Elian Cross stood beside her unfinished mural, his dark coat glowing under streetlight. "You came back," he said. "So did you." They smiled like strangers who already knew too much. "What is your name?" he asked. She hesitated. Names were dangerous. Names created roots. Roots made people stay. "Emily." He repeated it softly. "Emily." The word tasted like music in his mouth. "And yours?" Elian. She painted while he talked. He told her about growing up inside glass houses, about silence and luxury, about parents who love power more than people. She told him about hunger, about Rafa, about dreams that arrived at night, like birds. And something ancient began growing between them. A bridge. They began meeting every night, under neon lights, beside broken walls, between rich towers and poor streets. Elian brought her coffee. Emily brought him stories. She painted a woman dancing with the moon. He watched like a man learning to breathe. "You paint hope," he said. "I paint survival," she answered. One night, he touched her paint-stained fingers. Electricity ran through them, not the loud kind, the quiet kind that rearranges the heart. "You don't belong here," she whispered. "Neither do you," he said. They laughed. The city watched. Nix, Emily's friend, saw them together one night and said, "Girl, that man looks like trouble wrapped in money." Emily replied, "He looks like loneliness wrapped in skin." Love does not ask permission. It arrives like the weather. Elian did not tell her who he really was. Not about the Cross Empire. Not about the billions. Not about the headlines. He wanted to be just Elian. But secrets grow heavy. One evening, Emily invited him inside her home. Rafa smiled at him. "You look like a movie star," Rafa said. Elian knelt and said, "You look like a king." Emily watched that moment and felt her chest ache. She saw goodness in him. She did not see the storm waiting behind his name. Later that night, she said, "Promise me something." "What?" "Don't lie to me about who you are." Elian could not answer. Silence became a wound. The truth arrived on a screen. A giant billboard lit up Lunara City. Cross Corp Heir returns from overseas. And there was his face. "His name is Elian." Emily stood frozen. Nix whispered, "That's your wall boyfriend?" Her hands shook. She felt small. She felt fooled. She felt invisible. When Elian came that night, she did not paint. "You lied to me," she said. "I wanted to be human first," he answered. Tears ran like rain down her cheeks. "You came from a palace and met me in the dust. I came because of you." But the world had already drawn a line between them. Rich, poor, power, paint. That night, Emily erased part of her mural. The crown cracked. Elian watched in silence. "I can't love a secret," she said. "I can't change my birth," he replied. They stood between two worlds. He reached for her hand. She stepped back. "Love sometimes dies, not from hate, but from fear." She whispered, "Go back to your towers." He whispered, "I will never forget your dust." And he walked away. The city swallowed him. Emily painted one last line on the wall. "Even broken dreams wear crowns." And she cried until morning. Elian did not go home. He walked the streets until dawn, until Lunara City forgot his name and called him only another shadow. But shadows still belonged to something, and he belonged to Vera Cross. She found out the next morning. Vera Cross did not need rumors. Rumors came to her like servants. A photograph lay on her glass desk. Elian standing beside a painted wall. Elian beside a girl in torn shoes and starlight eyes. "Who is she?" Vera asked calmly. Jax Moreno, the photographer, swallowed. "A street artist." Vera's lips curved into something that was not a smile. "My son does not fall in love with dust." That night, black cars arrived near Emily's street. Men in suits stepped out like silence with legs. Nick saw them first. "Emily, someone important is looking for you." Emily wiped paint from her hands and stepped outside. Vera Cross stood there, wrapped in white and diamonds, glowing like ice. "I am Elian's mother," she said. Emily felt her heart stumble. "I came to ask you a question," Vera continued. "What do you want from my son?" Emily answered without fear. "Nothing he didn't offer freely." Vera studied her like a broken mirror. "You live in dust," she said. "My son lives in empires." "I live in truth," Emily replied. "He came to me as a man, not a throne." Vera stepped closer. "Dreams are dangerous for people like you," she whispered. "They make you forget your place." Emily's voice trembled but did not fall. "My place is where I choose to stand." And Vera Cross knew then. This girl would not bow. That night, Rafa's coughing became thunder. Emily ran him to the clinic in the rain. The nurse shook her head. "He needs medicine you cannot afford." Emily felt the world tilt. She called Elian for the first time since goodbye. "Rafa is sick," she whispered. "I don't know what to do." Elian came in 10 minutes. He carried Rafa in his arms like a fragile crown. In the hospital hallway, he pressed his forehead to Emily's. "I will help," he said, "whatever it costs." She wanted to refuse. Pride fought love, but Rafa's breath was louder than pride. Vera arrived later. She looked at the machines, at the girl, at the boy. "This is not our responsibility," Vera said coldly. Elian shouted for the first time in his life. "He is my responsibility now." The hallway learned his voice. News came fast. Cross Heir spotted with street artist. Cameras found Emily's wall. People photographed her crown mural. Tourists came. Suddenly, her dust became famous. Nick said, "Girl, you're turning into legend." But fame is a fire with no mercy. Some praised her. Some mocked her. One man spat near her painting. "Stay in your lane." She painted bigger. She painted louder. A crown made of flames. Elian stood beside her again, no longer hiding. "If the world hates us," he said, "let it learn our names." They kissed under neon light for the first time. The city gasped. Vera Cross held a press conference. "My son is being misled," she said. "He is confused by poverty." Emily watched on a small TV in Nix's room. Her heart shattered quietly. Elian stormed into his mother's office. "She is not a mistake," he said. "She is a storm," Vera answered, "and storms destroy empires." "I will leave," Elian said. I will build my own world. Vera's eyes sharpened. Then I will destroy hers. And the war began. The next morning, Emily's mural was painted over in black. Her crown erased. Her dreams were buried. She stood in front of the wall and touched the wet darkness. Nix cried. Rafa whispered, "Did they steal your queen?" Emily answered softly, "No, they only proved she was real." Elian arrived and fell to his knees. "I will fix this," he said. She lifted his face. "Don't fix me with power," she said. "Fix me with the truth." They stood in silence. The crown was gone, but something stronger remained. Love that had survived dust, lies, and fear. And the city held its breath, because when a crown is broken, a kingdom is about to rise. Emily did not paint the next night. The wall stood silent, black and wounded like a grave. Nick searched the streets for her. Elian searched the hospitals. Rafa searched the door with tired eyes. But Emily had walked into the rain with only a small bag and her broken heart. She left a note under Rafa's pillow. "My little king, if I stay, they will crush you with me. So I am leaving to learn how to be strong enough to come back. Dream for me. I will dream for you." She rode a bus toward the edge of Lunara City, toward the old coast where broken artists hid from the world. She cried the whole way. Love felt like a crown made of thorns. Elian stood before the erased mural at dawn. "Emily," he whispered to nothing. For the first time in his life, money meant nothing. Power meant nothing. Only her name had weight, and it was gone. Elian Cross walked into his mother's empire like a storm. "I resign," he said. The boardroom froze. Vera Cross did not blink. "You are choosing a ghost over a kingdom," she said. "I am choosing truth over fear." That night, his accounts were frozen. His name was erased from the company. His guards were dismissed. The city that once bowed to him no longer recognized him. He slept in cheap rooms. He ate street food, became a man with no crown, and every night he walked to Emily's wall and spoke to it. "I lost everything," he whispered, "but I still have your name." The rain answered him. Far away, by the restless sea, Emily learned to breathe again. She lived among fishermen, poets, and broken musicians. She painted on driftwood, on stones, on abandoned boats. She painted crowns on waves. Men admired her, but none touched her heart. Every night, she whispered Elian's name into the wind. "Are you still alive inside your towers?" she asked the moon. Her art grew fierce. She painted pain. She painted fire. She painted a woman walking through darkness carrying a crown in her chest. People began to gather. They called her the Queen of Ash. Months passed like slow funerals. Rafa healed. Nick sang in small clubs. Elian worked as a driver. The city forgot the scandal, but not the feeling. Sometimes Elian dreamed of Emily standing on the wall again. Sometimes Emily dreamed of Elian standing in the rain. They both woke up with tears. Love had not died. It had learned silence. One night by the shore, Amara painted her largest piece yet. A woman crowned with stars, standing between two worlds. She wrote beneath it, "From dust I return." At the same moment, in Lunara City, Elian painted over the black wall himself, not with gold, with white light. A single line, "I never left." The city felt it, two hearts calling each other across distance. The crown was being reborn, not as a symbol of power, but as a symbol of survival. Lunara City woke up with a strange feeling in its bones, the kind of feeling that arrives before storms, or before miracles. The wall where Emily once painted still stood, scarred with old black paint and white words that said, "I never left." People passed it every day, without knowing why their hearts felt heavier there. Elian stood before it at sunrise. His clothes were simple now. No guards, no cars, no empire, only a man and a memory. He touched the wall with his fingertips. "You promised," he whispered. "So did I." Behind him, the city moved on. Buses groaned. Markets shouted. The children laughed. Life did not stop for broken love, but love did not stop living. Far away, on the coast where the sea still remembered her footsteps, Emily packed her small bag. Her hair was longer now. Her eyes carried storms and suns. Her hands were stronger. She had become famous without wanting to. They called her the Queen of Ash. People came to watch her paint. Journalists whispered her name. Poets wrote about the girl who crowned suffering. But her heart stayed in Lunara City. Nix's voice echoed in her phone the night before. "Girl, your wall is calling you." Emily stood on the shore and looked at the horizon. "I'm not the same girl who left," she said to the waves. "I'm coming back as fire." She boarded the bus before sunrise. As the road carried her forward, memories returned like ghosts. Elian's hands, Rafa's smile, the crown on the wall, the night she vanished. Her chest tightened. Some loves do not fade, they wait. Elian worked as a delivery driver now. Every street felt like a confession. People did not recognize him anymore. He liked that. In the silence of poverty, he learned things. How hunger humbles pride. How fear lives in rent. How hope is fragile. One night, he saw a poster on a music bar wall. The Queen of Ash. Exhibition coming to Lunara City. His heart stopped. He stared at the image. It was her crown, made of fire and stars. "She's alive," he whispered. For the first time in months, he smiled. The exhibition opened near the harbor. Crowds gathered. Lights danced. Music rose. Emily stood inside a simple white dress, her skin glowing with courage. She felt the city's breath around her. Then she felt him. Some loves announced themselves without words. She turned. Across the room, Elian stood frozen, older, thinner, still her storm. Their eyes met. The world vanished. No music, no people, no sound. Only memory and heartbeat. They did not run. They did not touch. They simply stared across fire and time. Nyx whispered, "Go." But Emily couldn't move. Elian whispered, "Emily." Her name broke the air. They walked toward each other slowly, as if afraid the moment would shatter. "I thought you forgot me," Emily said. "I thought you became a legend," Elian answered. Tears found their way down both faces. "I lost everything," he said. "I found myself," she replied. They stood between paintings of crowns and wounds. "I didn't come back for revenge," Emily said. "I came back for the truth." "I stayed for you," Elian said. They touched hands. Electricity returned. The city watched two ghosts become human again. Across the room, Vera Cross watched from behind dark glasses. She had not forgotten the girl of dust, and she did not forgive her. "She's back," Vera said softly. And so was trouble. Her empire stirred again. Power does not sleep long. Rafa stood at the edge of the exhibition, taller now, stronger. He looked at his sister like she was made of stars. "You came back," he said. "I promised," Emily answered. He touched the painting of the crown. "Is this what you are now?" She smiled. "I'm what I survived." That night, Elian and Emily walked by the ocean, not touching, not rushing. "I was afraid you'd hate me," Elian said. "I was afraid I'd still love you," she replied. They laughed through tears. "You hurt me," she said, "and you saved me." "I lost my world," he said, "and found yours." They stood beneath the moonlight. He reached for her face. She did not step away. Their kiss was slow, careful, burning. Not the kiss of youth, but the kiss of survival. A stranger passed them and whispered, "Be careful. Power is moving again." Emily felt the wind change. Elian felt the past wake up. Love had returned, but war was coming, and the crown was no longer just a painting. It was a challenge. Lunara City did not sleep well after Emily returned. Whispers traveled faster than buses. The Queen of Ash is back. Elian Cross is with her again. Vera Cross is watching. The wall near the tower was no longer silent. Someone had placed candles at its base. Someone else had written, "Welcome home, Queen." Emily stood there at sunrise, touching the words like a wound and a blessing. Elian watched her from across the street. "You don't belong to the city anymore," he said softly. "You belong to the storm you started." She smiled sadly. "I never wanted power. I only wanted the truth." In her glass office, Vera Cross poured tea she did not drink. Screens showed Emily's exhibition. Crowds, applause, kisses captured by cameras. "Erase her," Vera said calmly. Her assistant hesitated. "Public opinion is with the girl." Vera's eyes sharpened. "Then we give them another story." By noon, news spread. Street artists linked to illegal funding. Cross hire manipulated by poor girl. Lies dressed as headlines. Power sharpened its teeth. Emily and Elian hid in Nyx's small apartment. The radio spat poison. Nyx threw a pillow at it. "They're trying to kill your crown with words." Emily's hand shook. "I survived hunger. I survived fear. But lies? Lies feel heavier." Elian took her hands. "Then let's tell the truth louder." They stepped outside together. Cameras flashed. Elian spoke. I chose her. Not money, not power, her. The city gasped. Vera watched on a screen and whispered, so be it. That night, Rafa collapsed in the street. Emily screamed his name. Hospitals smelled like fear again. Doctors whispered, his lungs are failing. Elian paid nothing. He had nothing. Emily held Rafa's hand. You can't leave me now, she cried. You're my crown. Outside the hospital, protesters gathered. Some for Emily, some against her. The city was splitting in half. A letter arrived with no return name. Leave Lunara City or the boy dies. Emily crushed it in her fist. Elian burned it. This is my mother's language, he said. I will not bow to it. But fear had teeth. Emily did not sleep. Love became a battlefield. The next day, someone defaced Emily's exhibition. Paintings torn, crowns burned. Artists flooded the streets in protest. They painted everywhere. Walls turned into flames of color. The police came. Tear gas rose. Emily stood between chaos and art. Do not fight with fists, she cried. Fight with beauty. Elian pulled her away as stones flew. The city bled light and smoke. That night, on a roof above the burning city, Emily and Elian lay under the stars. I was afraid loving you would destroy me, she whispered. And it did, he answered. But it also saved me. They touched their foreheads. If Rafa dies, Emily said, I will never forgive the world. Vera Cross walked into the hospital in silence. She looked at Rafa's machines, then at Emily. You can save him, Vera said. Disappear. Emily stared at her. Elian stepped forward. No, Vera smiled coldly. Then bury him. And walked away. Elian's voice broke. Then I will become a world you can forgive. They made love slowly, not with hunger, but with grief and promise. Emily collapsed. The crown shook. When Vera Cross left the hospital, she did not look back. Her heels clicked like a clock counting down Rafa's breath. Emily stood frozen beside her brother's bed. Machines hummed. Lights blinked. The smell of medicine filled the room like cold fog. Elian, Emily whispered. Her knees gave way. Elian caught her before she fell. She will not take you from me, he said, holding her tightly. She will not buy our suffering. But Emily's mind was no longer in the room. It was inside the letter. Disappear or the boy dies. She looked at Rafa's thin chest, rising and falling like fragile wings. That night, Emily did not cry. She grew quiet, and quiet in her had always meant decision. She walked alone through Lunara City after midnight, past her painted walls, past the places where love had begun, past the street where Elian first asked her why she painted crowns. She touched every mural as if saying goodbye. This one was for hope. This one was for hunger. This one was for him. Her feet carried her to the harbor. The sea was black and endless. If I leave, she whispered to the waves, will you keep my love alive? The wind answered with salt and sorrow. The next morning, Elian walked into the Cross Media Tower. No invitation, no suit, no fear. Cameras followed him. He stood in the marble hall and shouted, my mother is killing a child with silence. Gasps filled the building. Vera Cross appeared above him on the balcony. Elian, she said calmly, you are embarrassing yourself. You are threatening the innocent, he replied, and I will not protect your crimes with my blood anymore. Journalists recorded every word. The city watched live. This empire was built on broken people, Elian said. And today, I choose the broken over the throne. Vera's eyes darkened. You were never meant to be king, she said. You were meant to obey. I was meant to love, he answered, and walked out. The world shook. That afternoon, the streets exploded. Artists marched with paint instead of weapons. Mothers marched with photos of their children. Students painted crowns on police shields. The city became a canvas of rebellion. Emily stood on the hospital roof and watched smoke rise. Rafa, she whispered, your illness woke a kingdom. But inside, fear gnawed at her heart, because revolutions do not heal lungs. Emily sat beside Rafa as night fell. His eyes were tired but bright. You're famous now, he said softly. I saw you on TV. She smiled weakly. I would trade all of it for your breath. He took her hand. You always paint crowns, he said, but you never wear one. Tears finally fell. I don't want a crown, she whispered. I just want you. Rafa's voice trembled. Then don't leave me. Her chest broke. because leaving him was the only way to save him. Elian found her on the stairs outside the ward. "You're thinking of going," he said. She could not lie. "If I stay," she said, "they will destroy you and him." He grabbed her shoulders. "Then we fight." "I am tired of fighting," she whispered. "I want him to live." Their foreheads touched, their tears mixed. This was not a lover's argument, it was a funeral waiting to happen. That night, another envelope arrived. Inside, a hospital transfer approval, a plane ticket, and one sentence: disappear by dawn. Emily felt the weight of destiny press into her bones. Nick screamed, "This is murder with perfume." Elian crushed the ticket. "They will not take you." But Emily picked it up. Her hands did not shake. "They already took Rafa," she said. "This is the price of breath." They went to the roof where they first kissed after her return. The city glowed beneath them like a wounded crown. Elian held her face. "I will follow you anywhere." She shook her head. "If you follow me, they will follow you. If they follow you, Rafa dies." Silence broke them. They kissed like people drowning. Slow, desperate, sacred. "If love is a crown," Emily whispered, "then tonight we wear it alone." They lay together under the sky. No promises, only memory. Before sunrise, Emily packed again, like the first time she vanished. Only this time, she did not run from pain. She walked into it. She wrote Elian a letter. "I am not leaving you. I am leaving death. If I survive this, I will come back as fire." She kissed Rafa's forehead. Nick sobbed. Elian stood in the doorway. "Say you'll return," he begged. She touched his chest. "I live here now. That is where I will return." And she walked away. When Emily left Lunara City, the wind changed. The murals looked unfinished. The wall felt empty. The people whispered again, "The queen has gone." Elian stood alone at the erased crown wall. "She chose life," he said, "and I will build a world worthy of her return." Far above, Vera Cross watched from glass and shadow. The sacrifice had been made, but wars never end with one offering. Morning arrived without mercy. The sun rose like nothing had happened. But Rafa's hospital bed was empty. Emily's pillow lay untouched. Elian's letter burned half open in his pocket. Nurses avoided eye contact. The machines were silent. "Where is he?" Elian asked. No one answered. Finally, an old doctor spoke. "He was transferred in the night." Elian felt the floor vanish. Transferred where? To life or to silence? Outside the hospital, black cars waited. The cross symbol glinted in the sun. Vera had moved first. By afternoon, Lunara City heard the news. Emily Solis died from respiratory failure. The headline spread like poison rain. Emily, on a plane far above the clouds, screamed into the seatbelt when Nick's message arrived. "They say Rafa is gone." The plane shook with turbulence. Emily shook with grief. "No," she whispered. "I left to save him." Her crown fell from her heart and shattered into ash. In Lunara City, people gathered outside the erased mural. Someone placed a small crown made of flowers beneath it. Someone else lit a candle. Children drew wings on the wall. Artists painted Rafa's name in gold. "Rafa lives in color." Nick stood in the crowd and sobbed. "They killed a child to win a war." Elian stood alone across the street. He did not cry. He felt hollow, like a throne made of bone. Elian walked into the cross tower one last time. Security tried to stop him. He did not resist. He climbed the stairs to his mother's office. Vera Cross looked up from her desk. "You got what you wanted," he said. "My brother-in-law is dead." Vera's face did not move. Collateral is the language of power. Elian struck the glass table with his fist. "I renounce your name." "You will be nothing," she said. "I am already nothing," he answered, "and that is freedom." He removed the cross ring from his finger and left it on her desk. The empire lost its heir. A public funeral was announced. A coffin arrived at the old cathedral. Closed, guarded. No one was allowed to see inside. Nick screamed at the guards, "Let us see him." They refused. Elian stood in the rain watching the coffin. His hands trembled. "That box is a lie," he whispered. "The city is dressed in black." Even the murals darkened. Emily landed at night. She ran through the streets barefoot. Her hair is wild. Her face was broken. The cathedral doors were already closing. "Rafa!" she screamed. They would not let her in. She fell on the stone steps. "My crown was for you," she cried. "Not for this." Nix held her. "He's gone. Emily did not scream again. She went silent. Silence was her new language. The bells rang. The coffin stood alone beneath stained glass. Vera Cross sat in the front row. Elian stood at the back. Emily did not sit. She stood beside the coffin and placed her hand on it. "If you were inside," she whispered. "Forgive me." No answer came. The city wept, not just for Rafa, but for innocence. When the coffin was carried outside, the people broke. Someone threw paint at the cross symbol. Someone shouted, "This is your crown." Police moved in. Smoke rose. Emily stood in the middle of chaos. "Stop," she cried. "He would hate this." But grief has no ears. The streets burned with candles and anger. Elian climbed onto the steps of the cathedral. His voice cracked through speakers. "This child did not die of sickness," he said. "He died of power." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "My family murdered Mercy." Vera Cross watched from her car. Her jaw tightened. Elian raised his fist. "And I swear on dust and dreams, this empire will fall." The city answered with thunder. That night, in a hidden clinic by the sea, Rafa opened his eyes. A nurse whispered, "You are safe now." His name had been erased. His death had been staged. To break Amara, to control Elian, to silence rebellion. Rafa did not know this yet. He only knew he was alive and very far from home. Emily locked herself in Nix's room. She burned her sketches. She tore her crowns. "I killed him with love," she whispered. Elian stood outside the door all night. "I am here," he said to the wood in pain. But grief is a kingdom with no doors. Days passed. Emily did not paint. Walls stayed blank. The people whispered, "The Queen of Ash has died too." But something darker was forming. Because when art dies, revolution is born. After Rafa's funeral, Lunara City became a city without color. The murals were still there, but no one looked at them. The market still opened, but no one sang. The sea still whispered, but no one listened. Emily did not leave Nix's apartment for 7 days. She sat on the floor, her knees pulled to her chest, staring at nothing. Nix tried to feed her. She tried to make her talk. She tried to make her sleep. But Emily had crossed into another country, the country of the broken. Elian waited outside her door every night. "I am here," he said to the wood. "I am still here." She did not answer. Love was standing on the other side of grief, knocking gently. Without the cross name, Elian became invisible. He slept in abandoned buildings. He worked in kitchens, was chased by men who once bowed to him. His mother's empire hunted him quietly, not with guns, but with contracts, rumors, and erased bank accounts. He moved through the city like a ghost. Every night he visited the wall. Every night he whispered Emily's name. "I lost my crown," he said. "But you were never my crown. You were my sky." The wall did not answer, but the wind carried his words. On the 8th night, Emily dreamed. She saw Rafa standing in a field of white paint. He was laughing. He wore a crown made of light. "Why are you crying?" he asked her. "You're dead," she said. He shook his head. "No, I am hidden." She reached for him. The dream broke. Emily woke up screaming his name. Nix ran to her. "Elian is outside," Nix whispered. Emily stood slowly. For the first time in days, she opened the door. Elian stood in the hallway, thinner than before, eyes full of storms. They did not touch, they only stared. "I failed him," Emily said. Elian shook his head. "They murdered innocents." Emily's voice cracked. "I left to save him, and he died alone." Elian stepped forward and held her. For the first time since the funeral, she cried. Not like rain, like a river breaking through stone. They sat on the floor together until dawn, two ruins holding each other. The next morning, Nix brought news. "They're watching you," she whispered. "Cross men everywhere." Emily stood and looked at her hands, hands that had once painted crowns. "I bring danger to everyone," she said. Elian protested. "We can run together." Emily shook her head. "If I stay, they will destroy you too." She kissed his forehead. "This is not goodbye. This is exile," Nix cried. Elian could not speak. Emily packed one bag, not with clothes, with brushes. Emily left Lunara City at night. No cameras, no songs, no crowns. Only a bus and darkness. She watched the city fade like a dying star. "I will not die here," she whispered. "I will be reborn." She traveled to the desert coast, a forgotten place where sand met sea and no one asked names. There, she rented a small shack. She did not paint for weeks. She listened to the wind, to her grief, to her breath. This was the womb of fire, far away, in a hidden clinic. Rafa learned to walk again. Doctors called him by another name. They cut his hair, they hid his face. "You must not tell anyone who you are," a nurse said. "Why?" Rafa asked. "Because powerful people are afraid of your sister." Rafa touched his chest. "I want to go home." "You will," the nurse whispered, "when the world is safe." Rafa began to draw crowns everywhere. Back in Lunara City, Elian built something new. Not a company, a shelter. For artists chased by police, for boys beaten by power, for girls erased by fear. They met in abandoned warehouses. They painted at night. They sang Emily's name. They called the movement the Crownless. Elian became their voice. "Art is not crime," he said. "Love is not weakness." Vera Cross called it treason. The city called it hope. One morning in exile, Emily touched a wall. Her fingers trembled. She dipped her brush into ashen blue. She painted a woman kneeling in darkness, with a crown glowing inside her chest. Villagers gathered silently. They had never seen pain painted like prayer. Children brought her water. Old men brought her stories. They called her the Fire Woman. Emily felt something return, not happiness, purpose. One evening, a letter arrived in exile. No stamp, no return name. Inside was a child's drawing, a small boy with a crown, and one sentence, "I am alive." Emily dropped to her knees. Her breath left her body. Rafa. She held the paper like a miracle. She did not tell anyone. Hope was too dangerous to speak. That same night, Elian stood on the roof of the warehouse. He felt something change, not in the city, in himself. "She's alive," he whispered. Not Emily, the dream, the crown. He raised his hand to the stars. "We are not finished." Emily painted a final mural in exile. A child rising from ashes, a woman crowned with fire, a man standing between worlds. She wrote beneath it. The villagers bowed, not to her, but to what she carried. The crown had returned, not as art, as destiny. In exile, Emily woke before sunrise. The sea was restless. The birds circled strangely. The wind carried a sound like a drumbeat. She pressed the child's drawing to her chest. "I am alive." Those words had not left her mind for weeks. Hope is heavier than grief. It demands action. She stood before her final mural and whispered, "It is time." The villagers gathered as she packed. "Where will you go, firewoman?" an old fisherman asked. "Home," Emily said, "to finish what began in blood." They gave her food, water, a cloak painted with small crowns. "You are not alone," they said. She stepped onto the road back to Lunara City. In Lunara City, Elian stood before the Crownless. Hundreds now filled the abandoned theater. Painters, singers, writers, dancers, children, all wearing masks painted with broken crowns. "The city is ready," Elian said. "They cannot silence all of us." Nick stepped forward. "They are arresting artists at night. They are burning murals. They are lying on the news." Elian raised his hand. "Then tomorrow, we paint in daylight." A murmur became a roar. "The Crownless do not hide," Elian said. "We rise." In her glass tower, Vera Cross watched reports of murals spreading like wildfire. Walls became stories. Stories became flames. Her assistant whispered, "They are calling her the Fire Queen." Vera's jaw tightened. "She is a ghost. I killed her crown." But inside, something trembled, because power always fears what it cannot control. And the name Emily was back in the air. In the hidden clinic, Rafa overheard nurses whispering, "They are moving him again tonight." Rafa clutched his drawing. "No more running," he said. That night, he followed the sound of the sea. A fisherman recognized him, the boy with the crown eyes. Rafa said only, "Take me to Lunara City." Morning came like thunder. Artists painted in the open, on banks, on police walls, on cross buildings. Emily's symbols appeared everywhere. A woman of fire, a child of light, a man between worlds. The people stopped walking. They watched, then they joined. Songs filled the streets. Elian stood in the square and spoke. "They told us art was crime. They told us love was weak. They told us dreams were dangerous. We say, dreams are crowns. The crowd answered, "Crowns." Emily entered Lunara City at dusk. She covered her hair. She walked among her own murals. Tears filled her eyes. They had not forgotten her. Nyx found her in the shadows. "You came back," she whispered. "Only for the end." Nyx told her everything. About the Crownless. About Elian. About Rafa possibly alive. Emily's heart pounded. "Where is Elian?" Nyx smiled. "Everywhere." Vera Cross made her move. She announced a public speech. "We will restore order," she said. "Tonight in the Grand Square." Elian knew it was a trap. Emily knew it was destiny. "They will try to arrest you," Nyx said. "They will try to kill the movement," Elian said. Emily stepped forward. "Then let them see me." Silence fell. "You are supposed to be dead," Elian whispered. Emily met his eyes. So is fear. They touched their hands. For the first time in months, love stood tall. The Grand Square overflowed with people. Police lined the streets. Drones filled the sky. Vera Cross stood on the stage like a queen of ice. "We must cleanse this city of a voice," interrupted her. "Not loud, clear." "Of art?" Emily stepped into the light. The crowd gasped. "Elian!" someone cried. "Emily!" The city held its breath. Vera's face went white. You are supposed to be ashes." Emily walked forward. "I am fire." Emily spoke. Not with anger, with truth. "You murdered a child's dream. You silenced voices. You sold fear as an order, but you forgot something." She pointed to the people. "They remember." Elian took her hand. "The Crownless are here." Masks fell. Hundreds revealed their faces. The crowd surged. A small figure stepped forward. "My sister." Emily froze. The boy walked into the square. Alive, thin, bright-eyed. "Rafa!" Emily screamed his name. She ran and fell to her knees before him. "You came back," he said. "You were never gone," she whispered. The city wept. Even soldiers lowered their weapons. Vera shouted, "Seize them!" No one moved. The police looked at the child, at the murals, at the people. Truth is heavier than orders. Vera stepped back. "You think this makes you queen?" Emily stood. "No, it makes me responsible." Vera was arrested by her own guards. Power collapsed without a fight. The crowd lifted Emily and Rafa onto the steps. Elian stood beside them. Someone placed a crown made of painted wood on Emily's head. She removed it. "I do not rule you," she said. "I walk with you." They lifted their hands, not in worship, in unity. The Crownless became the crowned. That night, the city painted. Every wall, every bridge, every scar. Music poured into the streets. Emily painted beside Rafa. Elian watched them. "This is the kingdom," he said. "Not walls, not power, people." Emily leaned into him. "And love." Later, under the moon, Emily and Elian stood alone. "You came back for me," he said. "I came back for all of us," she replied, "but especially you." They kissed not with fire, but with peace. Rafa slept between them, holding a brush. The crown was no longer a symbol. It was the future. Emily painted one final mural at dawn. A woman of fire, a man of shadow, a child of light. Under it, she wrote, "The crown belongs to the brave." The city woke into a new world. Not perfect, but I'm awake. Lunara City woke without alarms for the first time in years. No drones, no boots, no fear echoing through the streets. Only birds, only wind brushing broken walls painted with new colors. Emily stood at her window and watched the city breathe. The murals were not slogans anymore. They were stories. A woman lifting a child, hands breaking chains, a crown dissolving into light. Rafa slept on the floor with paint still on his fingers. Elian stood beside her, silent. "Is this what peace feels like?" he asked. Emily nodded slowly. "It feels fragile." Peace was glass, and they were still barefoot. They walked through Lunara City that afternoon. People bowed their heads not in worship, but in gratitude. Old women touched Emily's cloak. Children ran beside Rafa. Men removed hats for Elian, but the streets told another story. Burned shops, cracked windows, posters torn from walls. Nyx joined them. "The prisons are opening," she said. "Families are looking for names." Emily closed her eyes. Victory has a price list. They gathered in the old theater, once the home of the Crownless. Painters sat beside doctors. Fishermen beside teachers. musicians beside former soldiers. No throne, no flags, only a circle. Elian spoke first. We didn't fight to replace one ruler with another. Emily added, we fought so no one would kneel again. A woman with burned hands stood up. My son is gone. What does your new dawn give me? Silence. Emily walked to her and took her hands. A voice, she said. A place to speak his name, and a promise that no child dies for power again. Not applause. Agreement. The city began learning democracy with broken bones. That night, Emily and Elian sat on the rooftop. Stars blinked like wounds, learning to close. You could leave, Elian said quietly. You never wanted to rule anything. Emily leaned against him. I don't rule. I listen. He smiled sadly. I was raised to command. Now, I must learn to belong. She kissed his forehead. You belong with me. Their love was no longer fire. It was a shelter. Rafa woke up screaming. Emily ran to him. They took me again, he cried. They put me in a box. Elian knelt beside him. You are safe. Rafa shook. I don't want to be a symbol. Emily held him tightly. You are a child first, always. That night she painted nothing. She just stayed awake, guarding a dream. Nix came with documents stolen from Cross Tower. There are names missing, she said. Scientists, generals, financiers. Elian scanned them. They vanished before Vera fell. Emily felt cold. Where? Nix whispered. Under the city. The war had roots. To heal, the city chose music. They called it the Festival of Dust and Dreams. No speeches, no banners, only art. Dancers painted their feet gold. Poets recited names of the dead. Children released paper crowns into the sky. Emily painted live, a giant phoenix rising from broken buildings. People cried, not from pain, from remembering how to feel. That night, Elian sat alone. He held his mother's ring. Vera Cross now waited in prison. I helped build this nightmare, he whispered. Emily joined him. You broke it too. But how do I live with both? She touched his chest. As a bridge between what was and what must be. He wept without shame. Love forgave him. A child approached Rafa at the festival. Come see something, the boy said. Rafa followed him behind a burned market. A metal door stood hidden under cloth. Strange symbols marked it. Rafa felt the air change. Cold, heavy. He ran back to Emily. There's something still alive, he said. Emily looked at Elian. The future knocked early. Emily and Elian walked alone near the sea. What if they come back? He asked. Then we paint again, she said. And if we fall? Then someone else will rise. They kissed beneath broken lanterns. Love was no longer secret. It was brave. That night, Emily dreamed. She stood in a city of mirrors. A crown of smoke hovered above her head. A voice whispered, Peace is only the first door. She woke up shaking. Outside, Lunara City glowed softly. Healing, waiting. The crown from dust and dreams had not finished its story. It had only changed shape. The metal door behind the burned market did not look important. It was rusted, bent, half buried in ash. Yet when Rafa stood before it, he felt something pulse, as if the city itself had a heartbeat underground. I hear voices, Rafa whispered. Emily knelt beside him. You hear memories, she said, and memories don't like to be buried. Elian placed his hand on the cold steel. It vibrated faintly. Nix arrived with lanterns and maps stolen from Cross Tower. This was never on public records, she said. But Vera built an entire system under Lunara City. A city beneath a city, a secret kingdom. They pried the door open. Air rushed out like a sigh of centuries. Steps spiraled downward. Graffiti lined the walls, old symbols of rebellion, crossed with scientific markings and numbers. Rafa held Emily's hand. Promise you won't leave me again, he said. She swallowed. I promise I will always come back. Elian walked first. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of fate. They entered a chamber made of transparent stone. Lights flickered on automatically. Rows of empty beds. Broken machines. Walls of screens showing frozen faces. Children. Artists. Thinkers. Rafa covered his mouth. They were here like me. Nix whispered. This was a dream factory. They read old files. Project Crown. Objective. Control. Imagination. Method. Neural extraction. Emily fell to her knees. They stole dreams, she said. not just lives. In the deepest room stood one glowing chamber. Inside floated a girl about Emily's age. Her eyes were closed. Paint-like light moved through her veins. A crown of light hovered above her head. Rafa stepped forward. She's still dreaming. The girl's eyes opened, and she looked directly at Emily. "You came back," the girl said inside their minds. Her voice was not sound. It was colorful. "My name is Lyra," she said. "I was the first." They watched memories spill into the air like smoke. Lyra painting impossible cities. Elian Cross is studying her. Machines built to trap her dreams. "They wanted a queen who could shape minds," Lyra said. "But they forgot I was human." Tears floated in her chamber. "I made Lunara beautiful once. Then they buried me." Emily touched the glass. "We will free you." Lyra smiled sadly. "Freedom will wake the others." Lights ignited down endless corridors. More chambers. More dreamers. Men. Women. Children. Hundreds. Elian staggered back. "This is genocide of the soul," Nyx whispered. "They weren't prisoners. They were batteries." Rafa clutched Emily. "Don't let them sleep forever." Emily's hands shook. "I won't." Lyra's voice softened. "If you wake us all, the city will hear the truth, but so will those who hid." Elian asked, "Who still hides?" Lyra's light darkened. "They call themselves the architects. They built Vera's empire. They do not live in Lunara. They live above nations." A greater enemy had been born. Back above ground, night wrapped the city. Emily could not paint. She could not sleep. Elian held her. "You carry too much," she whispered. "I freed one city, but I found a world of cages." Elian kissed her hair. "Then we opened them slowly, together." Rafa watched them. "If I help, will the nightmares stop?" Emily hugged him. "You will turn them into stars." They returned underground at dawn. Lyra closed her eyes. Machines powered down. Her chamber opened. She fell into Emily's arm. Weak, breathing, alive. Above, the city felt it. People woke up crying, dreaming, remembering lost songs. The city shook. Peace cracked. Somewhere far away, screens lit up. A voice said, "They opened the crown vault." Another replied, "Then the Fire Queen has become a threat." The world had noticed Lunara City. The crown of dust and dreams was no longer local. It was global. The morning after Lyra's release did not feel like morning. It felt like a memory. People woke with tears on their faces, holding images they did not know they had lost. A baker remembered a song his mother used to sing before the sirens began years ago. A woman in the harbor remembered the color of her father's laugh. Children painted shapes they had never learned. Lunara City was dreaming while awake, and it frightened them. "Something has changed," the radio announcers said. Reports of shared dreams, hallucinations, emotional surges. Emily stood on the roof of the council building and felt the air vibrate. "They feel her," she whispered. "Lyra is waking the city." Elian joined her, and the city doesn't know whether to thank her or fear her. They brought Lyra to the surface wrapped in blankets. Her eyes squinted against real light. "I forgot the sun was loud," she said softly. People gathered but kept their distance. Some crossed themselves. Some cried. Some whispered which. Emily held Lyra's hand. "You're safe." Lyra shook her head. "There is no safe anymore, only awake." Rafa stared at her with wonder. "You paint with your mind." Lyra smiled faintly. "And you paint with your heart." They were mirrors. Inside the theater, voices rose. A former soldier slammed his fist on the table. "This is dangerous. We release one dreamer, and the whole city trembles." A teacher replied, "They tremble because they were asleep for years." Nyx whispered to Elian, "They want to hide her again." Emily stood. "We will not build another prison with kinder words." Silence fell, but fear does not leave quietly. At dusk it began. A man screamed in the square, "My head is not mine!" People panicked. Someone threw a stone at a mural. Someone lit a fire. The police ran. Crowds surged. Lyra clutched her chest. "They are feeling what I felt for years," she whispered. Emily ran into the chaos. "Stop! This is grief, not madness." A woman collapsed into her arms. "I remember my son," she sobbed, "and I don't know how to live with it." Peace broke open, far beyond Lunara City. In a tower of white glass, men and women watched screens. "The Dream Network has reactivated," one said. "Shall we erase it?" A voice answered, "No, we will harvest it." A signal was sent. Drones lifted from secret bases. The architects had chosen their battlefield. Elian felt it first, a cold sensation behind his eyes. Nyx grabbed him. "Your name is on their files," she said. "They think you're the key." "Because I know their systems," he said. "And because you love her," Nyx replied. "Targets are made of relationships." That night, Lyra told Emily the truth. "They built me to guide emotion, but emotion can guide armies." She touched Emily's forehead. "I see what you are becoming." Emily trembled. "I don't want to be a weapon." "Then be a bridge," Lyra said, "between pain and meaning." Rafa listened from the doorway. "I don't want nightmares anymore." Lyra knelt before him. "Then we will make new dreams." The attack happened at midnight. No warning. The sky hummed. Lights died. A drone crashed into the harbor. Then another. Explosions shook the water. People screamed. Elian pulled Emily into cover. "They found us." Lyra screamed in pain. "They're trying to shut me down." Rafa covered his ears. "I hear them. The sea burned blue." Emily ran to the street. She lifted her hands. Murals glowed. Color turned into shields. Paint became light. The city watched art fight machines. Elian guided people through alleys. Nyx hacked emergency signals. Lyra sang a sound like wind through stars. The drones fell, one by one, but not before destruction. A young poet was killed when a wall collapsed. His notebook lay open in blood. Emily held it. "This is the price," she whispered. Peace had bled. Smoke curled over the harbor. People gathered in silence. No cheering, only shock. Lyra wept. "I woke them into war." Emily touched her face. "No, you woke them into truth." Elian addressed the city. This was not random. This was a message. A murmur spread. "The architects," Nyx said aloud. That night, candles filled the square. Not in fear, indecision. People painted crowns on their hands, not as symbols of power, but of responsibility. Emily spoke. "They will come again, not for me, for you, because a city that dreams cannot be owned." Rafa lifted his brush. "I will paint stars over the holes they made." The crowd answered. "We will dream louder." And far away, the architects watched and planned. After the attack, Lunara City did not sleep. Candles burned in windows. Murals glowed faintly like embers. People whispered instead of singing. Every sound felt like a warning. Emily walked through the streets at dawn and felt eyes on her. Not admiration, fear. A woman pulled her child away when Emily passed. A man whispered, "Dream Witch." Peace had learned a new name, suspicion. Lyra lay trembling on a hospital bed. Her skin shimmered like cracked glass. "They hit my signal," she whispered. "They damaged the dream network inside me." Emily held her hand. "Rest. We will protect you." Lyra shook her head. "No, if I sleep, they can find me." Rafa stood by the door. "I hear things now," he said. "When I close my eyes, I see other people's dreams." Elian stiffened. "That's impossible." Lyra looked at Rafa with fear and wonder. "No, it's beginning." In the council chamber, voices roared. A man slammed his palm on the table. "The architects attacked because of them. They brought the dream girl and the boy into the city." Nyx rose to her feet. "They attacked because they're afraid." Another voice shouted, "Elian worked for the old system. He knows their tech." The word traitor fell into the room like a knife. Elian stood slowly. "If you want me gone, say it." Silence. Then a woman whispered, "Maybe he should leave. For safety." Emily turned in disbelief. "You would exile him again?" Fear had found language. That night, Emily and Elian argued for the first time since the revolution. "They're afraid," Elian said, "and they're not wrong." Emily's eyes burned. "You're letting them make you disappear." He touched her face. "If I stay, they will use me to divide you." Rafa watched from the hallway, silent. Lyra whispered from her bed, "Love is the first target of power." Elian kissed Amara's forehead. That night, Emily and Elian argued for the first time since the revolution. "They're afraid," Elian said, "and they're not wrong." Emily's eyes burned. "You're letting them make you disappear." He touched her face. "If I stay, they will use me to divide you." Rafa watched from the hallway, silent. Lyra whispered from her bed, "Love is the first target of power." Elian kissed Emily's forehead. Rafa began drawing things he had never seen. Machines shaped like serpents, cities floating above oceans, a woman made of mirrors. "Where did you see this?" Emily asked. "In sleep," Rafa said, "and in other people's sleep." Lyra stared at the drawings. "These are architect designs." Rafa looked up. "They are coming." A child had become a radar. Nyx followed data trails late into the night, codes buried in emergency signals, messages hidden inside city broadcasts. They led to one place, a council member named Mero, once a poet, now a politician. Nyx confronted him in an empty hall. "You sold us!" Mero laughed bitterly. "They promised an order. This city is chaotic. You betrayed children. They promised peace," he said. "And power." Nyx pulled her weapon. Power always lies, but Mero had already sent the signal. Sirens scream, not drones, people. Armed guards stormed the hospital. "They're here for Lyra and the boy." Elian ran into the street. "Go underground." Emily grabbed Rafa. Lyra cried out as soldiers entered her room. "You cannot cage dreams again." Explosions shattered windows. The city ate itself. Elian stayed behind to hold the corridor. "Run," he shouted. Emily screamed his name. Gunfire echoed. Smoke swallowed him. When it cleared, Elian was gone. Taken. The crowd howled. Emily fell to her knees. Lyra collapsed. "They have him. They will use him to reach you." Rafa shook. "I saw it. They put him in the glass tower." Emily stood slowly. Her voice changed. "They want a crown of fear." Nyx wiped blood from her face. "Then we bring fire." That night, Emily painted not hope, but fury. A mural of chains breaking teeth, a heart wrapped in flames, a man reaching through darkness. She whispered, "I will not lose him again." The city watched her paint and felt courage return. Fear cracked. Lyra called Rafa close. "They will try to use you too," she said. Rafa cried, "I don't want to be special." She touched his forehead. "You are not special. You are brave." She placed her glowing hand on Emily's chest. "My power is breaking, but yours is growing." Light passed into Emily. Lyra went still, not dead, empty. Emily stood before the city. "They took the man I love. They took our dreamer. They betrayed our peace. Now we go beneath fear and bring him home." Rafa raised his brush. "I saw the path." Nyx loaded her weapon. The people lifted their hands, not in prayer, in defiance. And somewhere in a tower of glass, Elian waited. The crown from dust and dreams was about to become a crown of storm. The glass tower stood at the edge of Lunara City like a frozen scream. Its walls reflected the burning harbor. Its windows blinked with artificial stars. Inside, light moved like veins. Elian was strapped to a chair of crystal wire. Not chains, thought lines. They wrapped around his mind, feeding on memory. A voice echoed through the chamber. "You helped design this city's systems. Now you will help us rebuild them." Elian lifted his head. "You don't build. You harvest." The voice laughed softly. "We prefer the word architect." Emily started a march. The streets filled with footsteps. Not soldiers. People. Painters. Teachers. Dock workers. Mothers. Children. Emily walked at the front, her cloak painted with fire. Nyx whispered, "They have weapons we don't understand." Emily answered, "They have walls. We have a city." Rafa walked beside her, eyes glowing faintly. "I see doors," he said. In their minds, the murals along the road began to shimmer. Color woke. The city followed its queen of dust and dreams. Elian interrogation. Inside the tower, a woman appeared in light. Tall, white hair, eyes like mirrors. "I am Seraphine," she said, "one of the architects." She touched Elian's temple. Images burst out. His childhood, his mother's ring, Emily painting by candlelight. "Love makes you predictable," she said. Elian whispered, "Love makes me dangerous." He bit his lip until blood tasted like courage. Lyra sang her last song. Deep underground, Lyra stirred. Her body was weak. Her mind is still vast. She whispered into the dream network, "They are walking toward death. I must walk with them." Her light flared. Across the city, people felt warmth. Rafa gasped, "She's singing again." Emily felt the air change. Lyra's voice carried through dreams. "Do not fear the tower. Fear the silence inside it." The people reached the tower gates of the first wall. Steel, energy, glass, no door. Emily lifted her hands. The mural behind them burst into flame-colored light. A painted phoenix tore itself from the wall. It struck the gate. Glass screamed. Cracks bloomed like flowers. The crowd gasped. Art had become siege. They entered, hallways twisted like thoughts. Mirrors everywhere. Nix hacked panels. Rafa closed his eyes. "This way," he said. "He is afraid, but alive." Guards attacked. Paint shields rose. Light exploded. People screamed, but they kept moving. Not for victory, for love. Elian breaks when Seraphine whispers into Elian's mind. "She will die for you." He saw Emily fall in visions. Blood, fire, silence. Elian screamed, "Stop!" Seraphine smiled. "Join us. We can end suffering." Elian's voice broke. "You can't end suffering by killing dreams." He tore free one wire. Pain nearly killed him, but memory held him upright. Rafa collapsed in the hallway. "I see him," he cried. "I can reach him, inside." Lyra's voice answered through him. "Go through the fear, little crown." Rafa's eyes glowed. He touched the tower wall and vanished into sleep. Elian stood in a white desert. Chains of light wrapped his arms. A small voice said, "Don't be afraid." Rafa appeared, holding a paintbrush. "I found you." Elian knelt. "They'll use me." Rafa shook his head. "They can't if you remember who you are." He painted a door in the air. "Walk." Elian stepped through. The chain shattered. Emily reached the main chamber. Seraphine waited. "You are the wildfire," Seraphine said. "And wildfire destroys everything," Emily replied. "Only cages." They clashed. Light against color. Control against chaos. Seraphine struck Emily's mind with visions of dead cities. "You will fail like the others." Emily whispered, "Then I will fail loving." She painted with her hands in the air. A crown of living flame formed around her head. Lyra's voice grew faint. She had to sacrifice. "My power was stolen, but I choose where it ends." Her light surged through the tower. Machines exploded. Dream chambers shattered. She burned herself out to save them. Rafa screamed, "She's gone." Emily felt Lyra inside her chest. Not dead. Dispersed. Becoming a city. Elian broke free. He ran toward Emily. They saw each other through smoke. She fell into his arms. "You came back," she saw. He whispered, "I followed your fire." They kissed amid chaos. Love won one small war. The tower fell. The architects fled. Seraphine vanished into light. The tower cracked from within. People ran. The glass walls shattered into stars. The tower collapsed into the sea. A city screamed, then went silent. Dawn came. Smoke lifted. People stood in ruins. Elian held Rafa. Emily touched the water where the tower sank. "She saved us," Rafa whispered. Emily answered, "And now she lives in every dream." Nix approached. "They'll come again. The architects don't forgive." Emily nodded. "Then we become something they cannot design." The new era and crown. Emily painted one last mural on the broken tower wall. A woman, a man, a child, and 1,000 hands holding light. Under it she wrote, "The crown is not power. It is a promise." The people touched the wall, not in fear, in belonging. And far away, beyond the city, new architects watched the flames. The war had grown larger than Lunara, but so had the dream. The sea carried the story first. Ships leaving Lunara City carried more than cargo. They carried murals on their hulls, songs in their radios, and rumors in their hearts. They broke the glass tower. A child entered a dream. A woman painted fire into the sky. Across the water, other cities began to whisper the name Emily. And with her name came a question. If one city woke up, why not ours? Emily did not feel like a hero. She felt tired. She sat with Elian on the steps of the old theater and watched Rafa draw in the dust. He drew ships, stars, doors opening in the air. "I don't want to travel," Emily said softly. "I want to sleep for a year." Elian smiled. "The world won't let you." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "Did we choose this?" "No," he said, "but we chose each other." Love has become an anchor in a storm of meaning. Rafa began to speak in sleep. Not words, stories. "The desert is burning blue," he whispered one night. "A city of mirrors is crying. There is a woman with no face." Emily woke him gently. "Do they scare you?" Rafa shook his head. They call me. Lyra's light still lived inside him, not as power, but as connection. The boy was becoming a bridge between worlds. Some messengers came at dawn, 3 travelers from 3 different lands. A woman with silver tattoos from the mountains, a man from the desert with eyes like broken glass, a girl from the northern islands who spoke in poetry. They knelt not to Emily, but to the mural of the fallen tower. "Our cities are being built into cages," the island girl said. "Your story reached us," the desert man whispered. "Architects are everywhere now." Nyx folded her arms. "They've gone global." Emily closed her eyes. So has the dream. The council met again. Not just Lunara, now delegates from other cities joined through stolen channels. A teacher said, "They want you to come." A dock worker argued, "They want to make her a flag." Emily spoke slowly. "I am not a banner. I am a woman." Silence followed. Then Elian said, "But the world sees crowns where there are only people." That night, Emily cried, "I never wanted to be a prophecy." Elian held her. "Then be a story instead." They walked by the sea. Lanterns floated on water in memory of Lyra. "What happens when they kill me?" Emily asked suddenly. Elian stopped. "Don't." She looked at him. "I need to know." He swallowed. "Then I will paint in your place, and Rafa will dream of mine, and the city will remember." She kissed him hard. Love was no longer private. It was a vow against the future. A signal arrived from the desert city of Solhara. "They have taken our dreamers. They build towers of thought. They burn poets." Rafa listened, shaking. "They're doing what they did to Lyra." Emily stood up. "We cannot save everyone," Nyx answered. "But we remember what happens when we save no one." The decision moved through the room like wind. The world had opened a door. They did not march as soldiers. They traveled as pilgrims. Artists, healers, hackers, children. Murals were painted on buses, songs were written on roads. Rafa rode beside Emily. "Will the world hurt?" he asked. "Yes," she said, "but it already does." Elian looked at the horizon. "And now it has a voice." Far away, in a city of steel clouds, the architects gathered. Screens showed Lunara burning with light. Seraphine spoke again. "They have become contagious." Another architect replied, "Then we redesign the planet." A map glowed, cities marked in red, dreamers marked in blue. The war was no longer secret, it was structural. On the road, Emily dreamed of Lyra. "You will lose them," Lyra whispered. "Everyone does." Emily woke up shaking. Elian touched her face. "You're afraid." "Yes." "Good," he said. "Fear means you're still human." Rafa slept between them. The crown rested nowhere, only in motion. They reached Solhara at sunset. Walls taller than hope. Screens louder than prayer. People hid behind windows. Murals were banned. Dreaming was monitored. A child slipped through the gate and touched Emily's cloak. "Are you the fire woman?" Emily knelt. "I am just someone who refused to forget." The child smiled. "That's enough." That night, Emily painted again, not rebellion. Connection. A woman in Lunara holding hands with a woman in Solhara. A child standing between stars. A crown dissolving into roads. People gathered. Some cried. Some laughed. Some ran. The world felt itself waking when Elian spoke to Emily in the dark. "If this spreads, they will hunt you forever." She answered, "Then I will never fear again." He nodded. "Then I will never leave your side." They touched their foreheads. 2 humans against a system. Rafa painted beside her. "I see many cities now," he said. "Not sleeping is approximately equal to not silent," Emily whispered. "Then the crown is no longer mine." Elian smiled. It never was. Above them, the sky opened with stars. And somewhere beyond the desert, the architects prepared their next design. But so did the dream. Solhara lay behind them. Ahead rose Marora, a city built from glass, silver steel, and screens. Every wall reflected a face. Every street repeated 1,000 versions of the same person. No murals, no color, only reflections. Rafa shivered. The city is watching itself. Emily felt something deeper. No, it is hiding from itself. Above the gate, words glowed. "Identity is order." Elian read them aloud. "And order is fear," he said. They were met by the ruler of Marora. She wore a smooth mask of polished glass. No eyes, no mouth, only reflection. "I am called Vera," she said through speakers hidden in the walls. "Here, people are safe from chaos," Nyx whispered. She erased her own face. Vera gestured. In Murora, we remove dangerous dreams. No pain, no rebellion, only clarity. Emily stepped forward. You remove souls. Vera tilted her head. Souls cause war. They walk the streets. People move silently. Their eyes are blank. Their reflections are brighter than their bodies. Rafa touched a man's hand. I can't feel him dreaming. The man smiled mechanically. I do not dream anymore. Emily felt sick. They are alive, but unfinished. That night, Vera invited Emily and Elian alone into the Mirror Palace. Screens showed riots in distant cities, burning towers, children crying. This is what dreams bring, Vera said. Join me. We will create peace without chaos. She turned to Elian. You helped design control systems. Help me perfect them. Elian froze. Emily stared at him. No. Vera's voice softened. If you refuse, Murora will fall into war, and your movement will be blamed. Power wrapped itself in mercy. Rafa collapsed that night. He screamed in sleep. I see myself with no face. They take my colors. Lyra's faint voice whispered in him. This city eats identity, Rafa cried. I don't want to forget Emily. Emily held him. They will never touch your dreams. But she was lying to herself. Nyx discovered hidden chambers beneath the city. Rows of people stood before mirrors, their faces slowly erased by light. Dreams extracted, personalities flattened. Nyx whispered, they're making citizens into reflections of order. Emily knelt before one prisoner. The woman whispered, I was a poet. Her eyes went empty. Elian secretly returned alone to Vera. If I help you, he said, you leave Emily and the boy untouched. Vera smiled. Sacrifice is the architecture of peace. Elian felt his heart break quietly. The next day, Murora's guards surrounded the travelers. By order of Vera, they said, Elian will remain here as consultant. Emily stared at him. You agreed? Elian could not meet her eyes. I did it to save you. Her voice shattered. You did it without me. Rafa screamed. You're like them, Elian whispered. I am trying to protect you. Trust cracked. Vera brought Emily to a chamber of mirrors. Look, she said. Emily saw herself as queen, as a tyrant, as a corpse, as God. This is who you will become, Vera said, if you do not accept control. Emily fell to her knees. I am not destined. I have a choice. Vera replied, choice is the first enemy of order. Rafa hid in the tunnels. He closed his eyes. I will find their dreams and wake them. He entered the mirror network. Inside, thousands of minds floated like trapped birds. He whispered, remember your names. Light spread. Dreams stirred. Mirrors cracked. People clutched their heads. Poetry returned. Memories burst free. Tears fell for the first time in years. Vera screamed, stop the child. Guards chased Rafa. Nyx fired back. Chaos bloomed. Emily smashed a mirror with her fist. Blood ran. But the visions shattered. She painted with her hands on glass. Color exploded. The first mural in Murora appeared. A face. Unmasked. The people gasped. Elian watched the city fall apart. Vera shouted, you promised an order. He whispered, I promised protection, not silence. He turned against her, and the palace alarm screamed. Murora burned with color. People ran. Dreams screamed. Identity returned. But the cost was heavy. Elian was seized by guards. Rafa collapsed unconscious. Emily stood in a storm of glass and paint. The city had chosen chaos over cages. And the architects were watching. The house by the sea had many rooms, with unhealed things. But there was one room Emily never entered. It stayed locked, not with a key, with silence. Until the night, Elian heard her crying through the walls. Not loud crying, the kind of crying that sounds like breathing breaking apart. He rose from the bed slowly, afraid that love might shatter if he walked too fast. The moon painted the hallway silver. Her door was open. Emily sat on the floor with her back against the bed, holding an old sketchbook against her chest like a shield. Her hair was loose. Her eyes were swollen. Her hands were shaking. Elian, she whispered, I didn't want you to see this part of me. He knelt in front of her. There is no part of you I don't want. She opened the sketchbook. Inside were not paintings of crowns. They were paintings of pain. A girl standing in the fire. A boy drowning in glass. A city eating its own children. A woman with no face. A heart stitched together with wire. These are the things I never showed the world, she said. These are the nights I almost disappeared. Elian touched one page carefully. This is you. Yes, she said. And this is you leaving. And this is me surviving. Her voice cracked. I thought if I loved you, I would lose myself again. He said nothing for a long time, then softly, I thought if I loved you, I would lose my mother forever. They looked at each other. Two people holding different fears. The same wound. Emily began to speak like someone opening a grave. When I was 16, she said, I painted my first crown on a school wall. They arrested me. Elian froze. They said I destroyed property. They said I was dangerous. They said art without permission is rebellion. Her hands tightened. In jail, a woman told me, never shine too bright. The world hates light. It cannot control. She swallowed. So when I met you, I thought love would cage me again. Your world had rules. Your mother had power. Your name had chains. Elian felt each word strike him like rain. I left not because I didn't love you, she said. I left because I loved you too much to let your world kill me. Silence filled the room like water. Then Elian said something that shook the walls of his heart. I didn't know how to love without owning. I didn't know how to choose you without betraying her. He laughed bitterly. They taught me power, not tenderness. Emily stood slowly and walked to the window. The crown we are building, she said, cannot sit on fear. Later that night, Elian brought out an envelope he had never opened. My father wrote this before he died, he said. Emily turned. He read aloud. My son, a kingdom without love is only noise. If you inherit my name, but not my heart, you will be lonely among crowds. Choose the woman who teaches you how to be human, not the throne that teaches you how to be feared. Elian's voice broke. My mother burned everything else, but this survived. Emily touched the paper like it was holy. Your father knew, she whispered. They held each other, not with passion, with truth. Just before dawn, a black car arrived at the house. Vera Cross had found them. She stepped out in white, untouched by the dust of love. You ran, she said calmly, but history does not forget blood. Elian stepped forward. This is my life now. Vera looked at Emily. You are a storm in borrowed skin, Emily answered quietly. And you are a cage pretending to be a queen. The wind lifted Emily's hair like fire. Vera smiled thinly. You will destroy him. Emily shook her head. No, I will teach him to live. Vera's eyes hardened. You cannot love him without losing him. Emily replied, Then I will lose him beautifully. Elian took Emily's hand. For the first time, he did not choose power. He chose presence. That night, they lay together without fear. No crowns, no walls, no past. Just two bodies learning how to rest. Emily whispered, If tomorrow burns, promise me we will still be kind. Elian kissed her forehead. If tomorrow burns, I will burn holding you. She smiled through tears. Then we are already free. Outside, the sea kept breathing. Inside, the crown grew heavier. Not with gold, with responsibility. Before sleeping, Emily painted one more image. Not for the world, for them. A man and a woman standing barefoot in ash, holding a crown made of light and dust. Under it she wrote, Love is not power. Love is survival. Elian watched her paint and understood. The crown was never meant to sit on a head. It was meant to be carried between two hearts. The sea did not warn them. Morning came gentle, like forgiveness. Sunlight slid across the walls of the house by the shore. Emily painted barefoot. Elian brewed coffee, like a man learning patience. For a few hours, the world forgot who they were. But power does not sleep long, and history has sharp ears. It arrived not as thunder, but as a whisper with teeth. A message spread through Lunara City before noon. The girl who defied the Cross family has returned. Photos follow. Emily on the beach. Emily painted walls. Elian holding her hand like a vow. Captions written by invisible mouths. She ruined a dynasty. She bewitched a prince. She is a rebel wearing skin. Screens glowed with judgment. The city leaned forward. Hunger for story is older than hunger for bread. Vera Cross did not scream. She never did. She sat in her glass office and watched the city burn them slowly. Let the people decide, she said. She called journalists. She called ministers. She called the ghost of order. She is an anarchist artist, Vera said calmly. She encourages disorder. My son has been kidnapped by passion. They believed her because fear wears expensive clothes. They came to the shore at dusk, not with weapons, with words. Go back to the slums. Leave him alone. You don't belong in his world. Emily stood in front of her mural. Elian stood behind her. The wind was a witness. Emily lifted her voice. I belong to myself. A bottle shattered near her feet. Elian stepped forward. If you want to take something, he said, take me first. The crowd hesitated. Love confused them. Fear hates confusion. She began to paint while they shouted. Each brushstroke is a sentence. Each color is a refusal. She spoke while she painted. You call me chaos because I will not kneel. You call me danger because I will not disappear. You call me a thief because I stole a heart from a prison of gold. Her voice grew steady. But love does not belong to families. It belongs to brave moments. The sea clapped softly behind her. Some in the crowd cried. Some in the crowd cursed. History split into two paths. A young boy stepped forward with a stone, not angry, just afraid. My father says you will destroy the city, he said. Emily knelt in front of him. What does your heart say? The boy dropped the stone. Silence broke like glass. That night, newspapers screamed. The artist who divided a city. Romance or revolution? People argued in bars, on buses, in bedrooms. Elian watched the city from the balcony. I didn't know love could be this loud, he said. Emily touched his chest. It's loud because it's true. But fear was growing teeth. A white envelope from Vera arrived. Inside, only one sentence. Choose your blood or choose your ruin. Elian folded it slowly. I am not a prince anymore, he said. I am a man in love. Emily whispered. Then the crown will try to kill us. The next morning, police arrived. Not to arrest, to protect, which is another word for watch. Emily's murals were painted over with gray. Children cried. Artists went silent. The city was learning obedience again. Emily stood before her erased wall. Her hands shook. They are afraid of colors, she said. They only trust cement. Elian hugged her. They can't erase what you put inside people. They packed a bag. Only one. Emily's brushes. Elian's father's letter. At the door, Emily stopped. If we go, the crown dies. Elian looked at the sea. If we stay, they will come harder. They stood between escape and meaning. Finally, Emily said, then let them come. At dawn, she painted again. Not a woman, not a man. A crown on fire, surrounded by hands. Black hands, white hands, young hands, old hands. Under it, we are not your property. People gathered, not shouting, listening. The city breathed differently. That evening, Elian stood before Vera one last time. I will not inherit your fear. She slapped him. I gave you everything. You gave me a cage, he said. She turned away. You are dead to this family. He bowed. Then I am born again. Night fell heavily. The sea whispered. Emily leaned on Elian's shoulder. They will come for us again. He smiled sadly. Let them. We are not hiding anymore. Above them, the moon looked like a pale crown, not made of gold, made of light and dust. The city did not explode all at once. It cracked, like old glass, first with whispers, then with footsteps, then with fire. The mural of the burning crown still glowed on the wall when night fell. Candles burned at its base. Children touched it like a miracle. Old men sat beneath it like it was a story they had once forgotten. Emily stood before it, holding a brush, but not painting. She felt the air change. Elian, she whispered, this night is not safe. He took her hand. No night ever is, but this one belongs to the truth. Nyx arrived just after sunset. Her eyes were not singing anymore. They are coming, she said. Who? Emily asked. Everyone. Her voice trembled. The city council, the police, and your own people. Emily frowned. My people? Nyx could not meet her eyes. The ones who loved your crown. They say the fire has gone too far. Elian felt something cold move inside him. Fear does not always wear enemy clothes. Sometimes it wears familiar faces. They came with torches this time, not too warm. To accuse? Voices tangled together. She started this chaos. She broke the order. She stole a prince. She painted rebellion. Emily stood still. Her heart beat loud enough to be a drum. Elian raised his voice. She painted hope. Someone threw paint. Black paint across the burning crown. The mural began to die. Emily gasped. It felt like someone was ripping out a piece of her chest. A man stepped forward. Rafa, her first protector, the boy she once saved. "Emily," he said quietly, "stop." The word hurt more than the shouting. "You taught us to dream," Rafa said, "but now they say people will die because of your colors." Emily whispered, "Do you believe them?" Rafa's hands shook. "I believe the city is afraid. Fear is a language louder than love." He turned away. The crowd surged forward. Someone lit the bottom edge. Fire climbed the wall like a cruel flower. Orange swallowed gold. Smoke swallowed words. Emily screamed, not loud, deep. She ran toward the flames. Elian pulled her back. "You are not made of stone," he shouted. "That wall is my voice," she cried. Flames licked the crown until it became ash. The symbol died. The idea did not. Sirens arrived like wolves. Police pushed through the crowd. Hands grabbed Emily. Disturbance of public order. Elian fought. They struck him. He fell. Emily shouted his name. They dragged her away. The sea watched. The sky did not interfere. The cell smelled of rust and rain. Emily sat on the floor. No brushes. No wall. No Elian. Only breath. She drew a crown in dust with her finger. She whispered, "They can burn walls. They cannot burn memory." She sang softly to herself. A song Nyx once taught her. A song about staying human inside storms. Elian woke up on concrete. His face was swollen. His heart was awake. He walked barefoot through the city to his mother's tower. Vera Cross watched him with cold eyes. "You see what she brings?" she said. "Fire." He answered, "She brings the truth. She will destroy you. She already saved me." Silence. "You taught me to rule," he said. "She taught me to live." Vera turned away. "You are nothing without my name." He replied, "Then I will be nothing honestly." Morning came heavy. The wall was black. Ash stained the street. Children cried for colors. Old men cursed fear. Something had been broken, and something had begun. She dreamed of the crown walking, no longer on walls, on people's heads. She dreamed of Elian standing in fire but not burning. She dreamed of a city painting itself. When she woke up, she smiled. "They don't know," she whispered. "They made it bigger." Elian stood outside the jail, waiting, not with lawyers, with flowers. A guard asked, "Why wait?" Elian answered, "Because love is heavier than fear." The morning of Emily's trial arrived without birds. The sky was pale, like it had been washed too many times. People gathered outside the courthouse before the sun finished waking. Some came with flowers. Some came with stones. Some came with nothing but their fear. The building looked like a mouth waiting to swallow a story. Inside, Emily walked barefoot across cold marble. No crown, no brushes, only her name. The courtroom was built for silence. High ceilings, hard benches, men in dark coats holding laws like shields. Vera Cross sat in the front row. Her face was as calm as winter. Elian stood behind Emily, not touching her, not speaking, but breathing with her. The judge said, "You are accused of inciting unrest through illegal art." Emily lifted her eyes. "I painted what the city was afraid to say." Murmurs rose like smoke. They called witnesses, a shop owner. Her murals brought trouble. A politician. She challenged order. A police officer. She refused to stop. Each word built a wall around her. Elian wanted to shout, but Emily touched his hand. "Let them speak," she whispered. "Fear must empty itself before truth can enter." Nyx arrived late. She wore no makeup, no jewels, only her voice. The judge frowned. "What is this?" Nyx said, "I have no testimony. I have a song." The room laughed, but she began anyway. A low sound at first, like a wound learning to breathe. She sang of a girl who painted hope, a boy who lost his crown, a city that forgot how to see colors. Her voice climbed the walls. Even the judge stopped writing. Tears moved through the room like rain. When she finished, silence fell like a blanket. The judge whispered, "This is not evidence." Nyx answered, "It is a memory." Outside, people heard the song through open windows. Someone painted a small crown on the pavement. Another wrote, "We are not afraid of color." Children drew with chalk. Old women prayed. The city began to speak in art. Rafa stepped forward last. His eyes were red. "I betrayed her," he said. Gasps. "I believed fear instead of her." He turned to Emily. You gave me a future. I gave you doubt. He faced the judge. She is not the danger. We are. The courtroom shook. Truth walked barefoot. Vera stood. My son has been manipulated, she said. This woman feeds chaos. Elian finally spoke. She feeds courage. Vera looked at him. Would you throw away your bloodline? He replied, I would throw away fear. For the first time, Vera's voice cracked. You will regret this. Elian answered, No, you already did. The judge rose slowly. Art is not a crime, he said, but fire is. A pause. Emily is guilty of disobedience and innocent of hatred. Sentence: community service, public murals, under supervision, not prison. Freedom with eyes watching. The room exploded. Some cheered, some cursed, some prayed. Emily closed her eyes. She had survived. Outside, a man stepped into the street and lit himself with paint. Not fire, color. He covered his clothes in gold and red and blue. He shouted, This is not violence, this is visibility. Police dragged him away, but the image burned into the city's mind. Sacrifice had a new face. That evening, the city gave her a wall, a legal wall, large, white, waiting. Emily stood before it, shaking. Elian held her brush. Nix hummed softly. Rafa watched from behind. She painted slowly. A woman lifting a crown made of hands. Under it she wrote, The city is the queen. People knelt, not in worship, in understanding. That night by the sea, Elian said, I will not protect you with money. I will protect you with my body. Emily touched his face. I will not save you with art. I will save you with truth. They kissed, not like lovers, like survivors. The crown was no longer on walls, in families, in power. It lived in voices, in songs, in children's chalk, in broken men choosing better. Emily whispered to the wind, We are not alone anymore. The sea answered with light. The first fire was not violent. It was a candle. A child lit it under Emily's new mural and whispered, This is for the colors they tried to kill. By nightfall, the city glowed with small flames, balconies, windowsills, street corners. Not riots, not rage, remembrance. Lunara City breathed differently. The courthouse still smelled of fear and ink. But outside, people sang Nix's song. Not loudly, softly, so the police could not call it a protest, so the walls could call it prayer. Emily walked through the streets with Elian beside her. Every step felt heavier than the last. Not because she was tired, because she was becoming a symbol, a woman with no crown on her head and a crown in every eye that watched her. Elian, she whispered, I didn't ask to be this. He answered, No one asked to be fired. It just happens when truth touches air. At midnight, something strange happened. One wall was painted, then another, then another. Not by Emily, by the people. A baker painted a loaf with wings. A nurse painted a heart with roots. A child painted a crown with crayons. Words appeared, We remember color. We are not ashamed. Love is not a crime. The city became a book. Every wall is a page. Every street a sentence. Vera Cross watched from her tower. Her glass windows reflected flames. This is contagion, she said. No, her assistant whispered. This is a belonging. By morning, soldiers stood where artists had stood. They wore helmets like closed eyes. Orders were spoken. Erase the walls. Disperse gatherings. Silence the songs. Paint was scrubbed with chemicals. Songs were drowned by sirens. But memory does not wash away easily. Children redrew crowns with chalk. Old men hummed Nix's melody. Women painted at night. Fire learned to hide in hands. It happened near the old market. A boy named Tomas climbed a ladder to paint a phoenix. A soldier shouted. Tomas slipped. The street caught his body. Blood touched color. The phoenix remained unfinished. The city went silent. Emily ran to the place. She knelt beside the ladder. Her hands shook. He was just painting, she whispered. Elian held her as she cried, and the fire inside the city changed. It was no longer gentle. It was awake. That night, she stood on a broken bench. Emily gave a speech to the crowd. Her voice trembled, but it carried. We did not come to fight, she said. We came to be seen. Faces shone with candlelight. They are afraid because they forgot how to dream. She raised her paint-stained hands. If they erase our walls, we will paint the sky. If they silence our songs, we will breathe them into each other. The crowd answered with one word, Emily. She shook her head. Vera summoned him. You will stop this, she ordered. They are dying, he said. They are waking, she answered. She offered him a deal. Return to the family. Denounce Emily. In the movement. He stood still. You taught me how to rule fear, he said. She taught me how to heal it. Vera's eyes filled with something like regret. You will be hunted, she said. He answered. Then I will walk openly. And he left her forever. The next day, the city marched. Not with weapons, with brushes. People painted as they walked. Red on shoes, blue on hands, gold on faces. They sang Nyx's song. Soldiers stepped aside. Some dropped their shields. Because art does not look like an enemy. It looks like childhood. That night, Emily dreamed of a crown made of dust and stars. It floated above the city. Not owned, not controlled. It whispered, You were never meant to carry me alone. She woke in tears. Elian, she said, the crown belongs to everyone now. He kissed her forehead. Then we have won something no one can steal. Fires burned on rooftops, not destroying, illuminating. The city glowed like a constellation. From above, Lunara City looked like a galaxy fallen to earth. Fear still lived there, but so did courage. The crown was no longer a symbol of power. It was a language. The fire did not mean war. It meant memory. It meant, we saw color once. We will see it again. We are not invisible. We are not silent. Emily stood on the shore with Elian. They can kill walls, she said, but they can't kill the story. Elian answered, stories burn longer than empires. The sea carried their words away. The fire learned fear, not because it wanted to, but because fear learned how to name it. By the third night of painted marches and candlelit streets, the city no longer smelled of color. It smelled of boots, of metal, of rules spoken louder than truth. The walls were washed again and again, but the people kept writing on the dust. And dust, once touched by a dream, does not forget. Nyx sang at the old bridge. She chose the place where water meets echo. Her voice rose without a microphone, without permission. She sang of Tomas and the fallen phoenix, Emily and the crown of hands, a city that remembered light. Her song did not ask for revolution. It asked for mercy. Crowds gathered, not shouting, listening. And that is what frightened power most, because listening creates questions, and questions create cracks. Sirens arrived like wolves. Nyx kept singing, even when hands grabbed her arms. Even when her voice trembled, she sang until the street swallowed her sound. The city felt like a wound closing too fast. Amara heard the news at dawn. They took Nyx. The words felt heavier than stones. She ran through streets that once knew her name. Now they knew her face was dangerous. Doors closed. Windows watched. Love had become a hunted animal. Elian pulled her into an abandoned theater. Dust rose like ghosts. This is where dreams used to live, he whispered. Then let them hide here, she said. They slept under torn curtains. Paint dried on her fingers like blood. Some people whispered, this has gone too far. Others whispered, this has not gone far enough. Families argued at tables. Friends crossed streets to avoid each other. Fear and hope began sharing the same air. The government spoke of safety. The people spoke of memory. 2 languages, 1 city. And, between them, Emily's name burned like a candle in the wind. Rafa came at night. He did not knock. He waited outside until Emily found him. I didn't betray you this time, he said. His voice was thin. They want to use Nyx as bait. Emily felt the world tilt. They will say she planned violence. They will say you taught her. Elian clenched his fists. Where is she? Rafa whispered, then added, there is a list of artists, of singers, of children with chalk. Emily closed her eyes. They are making prisons for color. That night, Emily wrote a letter, not to the city, to the fire inside her. If they take me, do not become stone. Become wind, paint with breath, sing without mouths, remember me without statues. She folded it and hid it in her shoe. Love sometimes writes goodbye before danger arrives. Elian knelt in front of her. If they come, he said, I will walk with you. She touched his face. If they take one of us, she said, the other must carry the crown. He shook his head. There is no crown without you, she whispered. There is no fire without air. They held each other like survivors holding maps. Nick sat in a white room. No windows, no music. They did not hit her. They asked questions. Who leads you? Who funds you? Who tells you what to sing? She answered, the city. They laughed. They kept her awake. Silence became a cage. But in her mind, Nick sang anyway. To Tomas, to Emily, to the walls. A man from the crowd spoke on television. He said, I saw Emily plan the riots. He had once held a candle. Now he held fear. The city believed half of him. Half-truths are the sharpest knives. Emily watched the screen and whispered, they are turning stories into weapons. Posters appeared. Wanted. Emily for public safety. Her face became a warning. Children covered the posters with flowers. Soldiers tore them down. A war between paper and hands. One night, an old woman drew a crown outside the prison. She could barely walk, but she drew slowly. When police asked why, she said, my husband died building this city. At least let it be beautiful. They let her finish. Fire learned patience. Emily dreamed Nyx was singing underwater. Bubbles became notes. Fish became witnesses. She woke up crying. Elian, she whispered, we cannot let her vanish. He nodded. Then we go into the fire. They moved again, from theater to cellar, from cellar to boathouse. The crown no longer lived on walls. It lived in whispers. The songs hummed quietly. In chalk, hidden in pockets, love has become a secret language. This fire was no longer bright. It was underground, like roots, like veins, like breath held inside the chest. The city learned a new way to burn, not with flames, with waiting. The city did not sleep. It listened. Sirens hummed like insects. Windows blinked with nervous light. The wind carried rumors from street to street like dying birds. Somewhere beneath the noise, Nyx was still singing inside herself, and somewhere between fear and courage, Emily decided, tonight, we walk into the fire. They gathered in the boathouse by the river, a place that smelled of rust and old salt and secrets. Rafa spread a map on the floor with trembling hands. The prison is here, he whispered. 3 gates, 2 patrols, 1 blind corner. Emily knelt beside him. Her hair was tied with a strip of red cloth, not for beauty, but for memory. Elian stood behind her like a quiet mountain. Nyx had once sung in this boathouse years ago, before the city forgot how to listen. Do we come back? Rafa asked. Emily answered softly. We come back as a story, one way or another. Silence followed her words. Not fear, understanding. They moved through alleys where murals once lived. Now, only gray ghosts remain. Emily touched the walls as she passed. I'm sorry, she whispered to them. You were braver than we were. Elian walked beside her. If walls could speak, he said, they would tell you to keep walking. Above them, the moon looked like a pale coin spent too many times. The river carried their reflections like broken crowns. Nyx had stopped counting hours. Time had dissolved into light and silence. They had taken her voice away by asking for it too much. Who leads you? Who funds you? Who taught you rebellion? She answered with breathing. In her mind, she sang to Tomas, to the old woman with chalk, to Emily's burning crown. Her voice became a bridge inside her chest. She believed in it the way drowning people believe in air. The prison rose like a thought no one wanted to finish. Gray walls, steel doors, a flag that did not move. Rafa cut the power with hands that shook like leaves. Darkness swallowed the street. Emily felt her heart turn into a drum. Elian whispered, now. They ran, not like heroes, like humans who refused to disappear. Inside, the prison smelled of bleach and fear. Cells lined the hall like mouths without sound. They found Nyx sitting on the floor, singing to herself. Her voice was thin but alive. Nyx, Emily whispered. Nyx lifted her head, her eyes filled with stars. You came back for me. Emily knelt and held her face. We do not leave our songs behind. Elian broke the lock. For one breath, the world was kind. It came like punctuation, a single sound, too loud for poetry. Rafa fell first, not dramatically, like someone kneeling to pray. Blood bloomed on his shirt like a new mural. Emily screamed his name. Nyx covered her mouth. Elian turned toward the sound. Soldiers poured into the hallway like night-given boots. Run, Rafa whispered. And then he was quiet. The city lost another child. They ran with Nyx between them. Sirens howled, guns barked. The prison vomited light. Outside, people had gathered, not knowing why. only feeling that something had cracked open. Emily raised her paint-stained hands and shouted, "They kill songs!" The crowd roared back, and the fire answered. A soldier dropped his helmet. Another dropped his shield. Someone threw flowers. Someone threw stones. Someone lit a banner on fire. The street turned into a river of bodies and voices. Nyx climbed onto a car and sang. Her voice broke the night in half. Even bullets hesitated. Emily stood in the middle of the chaos and screamed, "This is not war. This is memory fighting erasure." Her words flew like sparks. People lifted candles, then brushes, then hands. The crown was no longer a symbol. It was a wound speaking. A blow struck Elian from behind. He fell beside Emily, blood on his temple, not dead, but enough to make fear grow teeth. Emily knelt beside him. "Stay," she whispered. "Stay human." He smiled weakly. "You look like fire." By dawn, Lunara City was no longer one thing. It was streets of singing, streets of silence, streets of smoke, streets of light. Rafa's body lay wrapped in a painted flag. Nyx stood beside him, singing the song he taught her. Emily painted a crown on the pavement with her own blood mixed into gold paint. Under it, she wrote, "This city remembers its children." Emily did not cry at first. She felt empty like a burned house. Elian held her. Nyx sang. The city watched. Rafa's death became a doorway, not into hatred, into awakening. People who had been silent spoke. People who had been afraid painted. Fear lost one of its teeth. By nightfall, stories spread faster than sirens. They rescued the singer. They bled for color. They stood against guns with songs. Children drew crowns with wings. Old men whispered Rafa's name. The crown was no longer dust. It was fire with a face. At the river, Emily washed Rafa's blood from her hands. Not to forget, to carry it cleanly. "I will not turn this into hatred," she said. "I will turn it into light." Elian stood beside her. "You already have." Nyx placed her hand over Emily's heart. "The song will never stop now." This fire meant someone had died. Something had begun. The city had chosen to wait. It was no longer safe, but it was no longer asleep. The crown was no longer a painting. It was a story written in bodies and voices. The morning after Rafa died, the city woke up under a different sky. Not because the clouds had changed, but because the rules had. Soldiers stood at every corner. Helicopters stitched lines into the air. Sirens replaced birds. Lunara City was no longer a body. It was a cage pretending to be a place. Posters bloomed like wounds. Martial law declared. All gatherings forbidden. The artist Emily, wanted for incitement. Her face stared from walls that once carried her crowns. Emily watched from behind a cracked window in an abandoned school. "They turned my face into a warning," she whispered. Elian touched the paper. "They are afraid of you." She shook her head. "They are afraid of what I woke up." In her tower of glass and silence, Vera Cross stood before a screen filled with flames and crowds. "Enough," she said. Her advisors waited like statues. She spoke slowly, like someone choosing a knife. "Freeze the banks. Shut the ports. Close the schools. Make hunger louder than art." They obeyed. Power is not always loud. Sometimes it whispers into systems. By nightfall, markets were empty. Water stopped flowing in some streets. Lights went dark in poor neighborhoods. The fire of the city began to starve, and starving fire becomes smoke. Nyx stood on the steps of the burned courthouse. Her voice was hoarse from crying and singing and screaming into fear. She sang anyway, not loudly, not beautifully, but truthfully. "I will not give you silence," she sang, "even if you take my breath." Soldiers surrounded her. One of them trembled. Another raised his gun. Emily watched from an alley and felt her heart tear. "Elian, if they take her again." "They won't," he said. But fear did not listen. They dragged Nyx away. Her song did not stop. It traveled down the street after her like a ghost. People hid their brushes. Children stopped drawing on sidewalks. Old women erased chalk crowns with their feet. The fire went underground. Not dead. Breathing slowly beneath concrete. Emily felt it in her bones. "We are becoming rumors," she said. Elian answered. "Rumors become legends." That night, in the abandoned school, Emily collapsed. Not from bullets, from her body remembering something she had ignored. Elian held her as she shook. "Emily, talk to me," she whispered. "There is another heartbeat inside me." Silence fell between them like snow. "You mean Elian began. She nodded. Our fire made a future. He pressed his forehead to hers. They will use this against us. They will use everything, she said. But this is not theirs. The crown was no longer just a symbol. It had become flesh. Rafa's younger sister found them before dawn. Her eyes were empty of childhood. They know where you are, she said. Vera ordered the street sealed. Elian felt the walls shrink. Emily touched her stomach. If they catch me now, she said. This story ends with a cage. Nix was gone. Rafa was dead. The city was locked. Only one road remained. Exile. They left before sunrise. Through alleys that smelled of smoke and rain. Emily touched every wall as she passed. Remember me, she whispered to bricks and dust. Remember the crown. Elian carried only 3 things. His father's letter, Emily's brushes, a small blanket. The river waited like a question. A fisherman hid them in his boat. Why help us? Elian asked. The man said, my daughter draws crowns on her notebooks. That is reason enough. From the water, the city looked wounded. Smoke rose like prayer. Sirens stitched fear into the air. Emily stood and painted one final thing on the boat's side. A crown breaking into stars. Under it, she wrote, we will return as light. Elian held her as the shore disappeared. You are not running, he said. You are carrying the fire somewhere safe. She cried silently. I didn't want to leave them. You didn't, he whispered. You became them. Vera Cross stood on her balcony when she heard the news. They escaped. She closed her eyes. Let them become myths, she said. My city will be forgotten. But below her tower, a child drew a crown with chalk, and another child drew one beside it, and another. Power does not understand seeds. Nix sat alone in a deeper cell. No light, no song, but she tapped rhythms on the wall with her fingers. 1 tap for Rafa, 2 taps for Emily, 3 taps for the city. The walls began to listen. Exile is not disappearance. It is a long breath before I return. Emily watched the stars rise over the water. My crown is gone, she said. Elian replied, no, it learned how to walk. She rested her head on his chest. Inside her, another heart learned the sound of waves. They lived where the land forgot the noise of cities. A small village by the far sea. White houses, salt wind. Fishermen who spoke little and watched much. Here, no one asked for names. Only for bread. Only for the weather. Only for the tide. Emily learned the language of waves. Elian learned the weight of quiet. And inside Emily, a new heart learned the rhythm of both. The child was born during a storm. Thunder rolled like drums of memory. Rain washed the dust of the old city from their skin. Emily screamed not in fear, but in release. Elian held her hand and whispered, you are not alone anymore. When the child arrived, the sky cleared. A girl, eyes dark as night, breath soft as candle flame. Emily wept. She carries Rafa's courage, Nix's son, and our fire. They named her Laika because she was born between ash and stars. Years passed like tides. Emily painted on stones instead of walls. Crowns of shells, crowns of waves, crowns of birds. Emily grew among colors. She thought crowns were stories, not power. At night, Emily told her, once there was a city that forgot how to dream until people remembered color. Laika asked, why did they stop dreaming? Emily answered, because fear learned how to shout. Elian added, and love learned how to hide. Far away, in Lunara City, Nix still lived. Years had carved silence into her hair, but not into her voice. In prison, she taught songs to women with broken names. They sang softly so the walls could not punish them. One night, Nix sang Laika's name without knowing it. The song escaped through a window and traveled across streets, across water, across time. Emily woke up crying. Elian, I heard her. He nodded. So did the stars. Lunara City grew tall again. New buildings, new laws, new fear, but children still drew crowns in notebooks. Old men still whispered Rafa's name. Posters of Emily faded but never vanished. Vera Cross grew older in her tower. Her mirrors showed wrinkles, her power showed cracks. She ruled a city that obeyed but did not love. And power without love is a lonely throne. One evening, Laika stood on the shore. Mother, she asked, why do you paint crowns everywhere? Emily knelt beside her. Because a crown is what people become when they refuse to disappear. Laika looked at the sky. Will I have one? Emily smiled sadly. You already do. And Elian saw that the child carried something heavier than blood. She carried the memory. A fisherman arrived with news one morning. Your city is burning again, he said. Not with fire, with voices. Nix's song had escaped prison. Children sang it in the streets. Women painted crowns again. Walls began to bloom quietly. Vera Cross was dying, and fear was losing its grip. Emily closed her eyes. The crown is calling us home. Elian touched Laika's head. Home is dangerous, Emily answered. So is forgetting. That night, Emily dreamed of Rafa standing in the sunlight. He held a crown of birds. Do not let her grow without the city, he said. Emily woke up shaking. The fire wants to return, she whispered. Elian kissed her hair. Then we go back as stars, not flames. They packed again, not in fear this time. On purpose. Laika held a small bag of paints. Am I going to see the city of stories? She asked. Yes, Emily said. And it will see you. The boat cut across water like a sentence beginning again. Behind them, exile closed gently. Ahead, destiny waited. Emily painted on the boat's sail, a crown made of smoke and light. Under it, we return as memory, not war. Laika traced it with her fingers. This is my name, she said. Elian watched the horizon. The city will remember. The boat touched the harbor at dawn, not with noise, not with flags, only with the soft sound of wood kissing stone. Laika held Emily's hand. The city rose before them like a ghost that had learned to breathe again. Towers still stood. Walls still carried scars. But something in the air had changed. Not fear, expectation. People moved slower. Eyes searched faces. Windows were open. The city did not shout. It waited. They walked the streets without hiding. Emily wore no hood. Elian carried no weapon. Laika carried paint. Some people stared. A woman dropped her basket. A man whispered, "It's her." Children followed them like birds following light. Murals had been half erased. Crowns faded into bricks. But someone had repainted one that morning. Fresh gold, fresh red, fresh hope. Laika touched it. Mother, it's the same. Emily knelt. Yes, the city remembers itself. Nix felt the change before she saw it. The air inside the prison shifted. Women whispered. Guards argued. A song traveled down the hallway like water finding cracks. Nix closed her eyes. That voice, that color, that fire. The doors opened. Not violently, quietly. And in the doorway stood Emily. For a moment, time forgot how to move. Nix dropped her cup. Emily dropped to her knees. They held each other like two halves of a broken sky. You came back, Nix whispered. I promised, Emily said. And you sang? Emily added. Nix smiled through tears. I kept the crown alive. In her tower, Vera Cross stared at mirrors that no longer loved her. They showed her wrinkles. They showed her fear. They showed her a city that did not bow. Her generals came trembling. The murals are back. The people sing. The child has arrived. Vera's voice cracked. A child? They brought her to the balcony. She saw Laika standing in the square, painting, not with anger, with wonder. A crown made of stars. The crowd did not chant. They wept. Vera sank into her throne. I killed fire, she whispered. But I could not kill the memory. Her heart failed before nightfall. No execution, no riot, just silence. A crown fell into dust. Laika stood before the tallest wall in Lunara City, the wall that once carried Rafa's face, the wall that had been painted over 100 times. She lifted her brush. People gathered. Nix sang softly. Emily held Elian's hand. Emily painted a crown, but inside it, a family. A woman with paint-stained hands. A man with gentle eyes. A singer with wings of sound. And a child holding stars. Underneath, she wrote, We are still here. The city breathed together. That night, Emily, Nix, and Elian sat under broken streetlights. We were children, Nix said, and now we are stories, Elian answered. Emily watched Laika sleep beside paint buckets. She is not a rebel, Emily said. She is a beginning. Nix touched her scarred hands. You gave the city a future. The next morning, prison doors opened. Paint was not erased. Songs were not punished. Children drew crowns in schoolbooks. The city did not overthrow. It woke me up. Old men told Rafa's story again. Women spoke Emily's name without fear, and Nick sang from rooftops. Emily painted one last mural, not a symbol of war, but of balance. A crown made of ash for what was lost, stars for what survived. Under it, a crown is not what you wear, it is what you protect. Soline watched. "Is the crown mine?" she asked. Emily shook her head. "It belongs to everyone who remembers." That night, people lit candles across the city. Windows glowed, walls shimmered, songs filled the streets. Nick sang Rafa's song. Children danced. No guards came. No guns rose. The city healed in sound. Elian spoke to Laika. "You were born between fire and stars, but you must choose your own sky." Laika answered, "I choose color." Lunara City did not become perfect, but it became awake. And the crown was no longer a thing of fear. It was a language, painted on walls, sung in the streets, carried by a child, a crown of ash and stars. Lunara City had learned new habits. Walls were painted, not erased. Songs were sung, not silenced. Names were remembered, not buried. But peace is a fragile glass. It looks strong until someone breathes too hard. Laika walked alone every morning before the city woke up. She carried brushes in one pocket, a notebook in the other, and her mother's old scarf around her neck. She did not wear crowns. She wore color. The walls greeted her like old friends. Some whispered Rafa's name. Some whispered Emily's. Some whispered hers. She answered with paint. Her murals were different from Emily's. Emily painted pain becoming hope. Laika painted hope learning how to walk. She painted children standing on broken towers, women holding stars in bowls, old men watering flowers growing from concrete. Her style was softer, but deeper. People said, "She paints the future." But Laika felt something heavy inside. A question. What happens when the city no longer needs saving? Nyx had become a legend. Her voice filled schools, markets, night festivals, funerals. She sang songs of memory, but her eyes carried worry. "Peace makes people forget why they fought," she told Soline one night. Laika replied, "Then I will paint reminders." Nyx smiled sadly. Reminders become targets. He arrived without drums. Lord Kael wore clean suits and calm words. He bought factories. He rebuilt streets. He funded schools. The city loved him. But Laika felt cold when she saw him. His smile did not reach his eyes. He said, "Art is beautiful, but order is better." He removed murals quietly, not with soldiers, with contracts. Walls became advertisements, songs became schedules, freedom became paperwork. One morning, Laika reached her favorite wall. It was gone, not destroyed, covered with white paint, clean, empty, silent. Her hands shook. She painted over it, a small crown, a single star. By evening it was erased again. The war had returned, but this time with silence. Emily was older now. Her hair silvered like moonlight. Her hands trembled when she painted. Sat beside her. "They are killing the walls again," Emily whispered. Emily touched her daughter's cheek. "They are afraid of what cannot be owned." "What should I do?" Emily answered slowly. "Do not fight like fire. Fight like roots." Emily gathered the children. Not rebels, artists. They painted inside abandoned tunnels, under bridges, on the backs of old trains. Art went underground. Murals became whispers. Crowns appeared where no cameras watched. The city began to feel alive again. Elian warned her, "Power does not like invisible things." Laika replied, "Then I will be everywhere." He saw Rafa in her eyes, and Emily in her hands, and fear in his heart. Kael announced a festival, the Festival of Unity. No murals allowed, no songs of rebellion, only approved art. Nyx refused to sing. Laika planned something else. At midnight, the city woke up. Every hidden artist came out. Walls bloomed at once. 1,000 crowns, 1,000 stars, 1,000 names. Children painted hands holding light. Women painted wings. Men painted broken chains. The city gasped. By sunrise, Lunara was a living gallery. Laika was caught, not beaten, taken. Lord Kael stood before her. "You paint chaos," he said calmly. "I paint memories," she replied. "You are dangerous." "So was my mother." He ordered her imprisoned. Nyx sang outside the prison. Not loud, But the truth? People gathered. Pain appeared. Guards lowered their weapons. Walls inside the prison bloomed with color. Even cells became murals. Kale's power cracked. Emily rose one last time. She painted the biggest wall in the city. A woman handing a crown to a girl. The crown is made of ash and stars. Under it, she wrote, "What you protect, you become." She collapsed afterward, peacefully. Her life finished in color. The city mourned in paint. No black clothes, only gold and blue. Laika held her mother's brushes and wept into them. Kale was removed quietly, not by force, by the people. They stopped listening to him. He faded. Power starved. Laika did not take the throne. She built a school of walls, where anyone could paint. Laika stood before her mother's final mural. "I will not wear the crown," she whispered. "I will grow it." And the city answered with color. The crown was no longer ash. It was stars. Years passed like quiet prayers. Lunara City no longer waited for heroes. It woke up as one. Children painted before they learned to write. Old women taught songs to strangers. Men planted gardens where prisons once stood. Laika walked among them without guards. She carried no title, only paint. Some called her the Keeper of Walls. Some called her Daughter of Fire. Some simply called her Laika. She preferred the last. Every wall held memory. Every street carried a song, but deep inside her chest, something trembled. Peace is beautiful, but peace is also fragile. And she felt the wind changing again. Nix's hair had turned silver like Emily's once did. Her voice was softer now, but deeper. She taught children how to sing stories. Sing so the dead can hear. Sing so the living don't forget. One evening, she told Laika, "When my voice leaves me, you must teach them silence too. Silence is where songs are born." Laika cried quietly. "I don't want you to fade." Nix smiled. "We never fade, we echo." Some quiet men in gray coats came to Lunar, men with books of rules. They did not arrive with weapons, they arrived with laws. They said, "Too much art is a disorder. Too much memory is dangerous. People need direction." They closed schools. They erased murals again, not violently, legally. This was the hardest enemy, because it looked like peace. Laika walked alone through the city. She touched old walls, Rafa's face, Emily's crown, Nix's wings. Some were fading. She whispered, "I am tired of fighting." The wall answered with cracks. She sat and wept like a child again, and in her tears, she saw her mother's final mural, a woman giving a crown to a girl. "What do I need to protect now?" she asked the night. Elian lay in bed with slow breath. His hands were thin now. Laika held them. "You built a city without chains," he said, "but chains return wearing new clothes." "What should I do?" he answered. "Do not fight them. Show them." "Show them what?" "What the crown really is." Laika called the people, not to protest, to paint. One night, every person in Lunara brought something. A brush, a candle, a song, a memory. They did not shout. They painted their lives. Walls filled with births, deaths, love, fears, dreams. The city became one living story. The quiet men watched, and something inside them broke. Because you cannot arrest a memory shared by everyone. Nix climbed the old prison steps one final time. Her voice was weak, but true. She sang Rafa's song, then Emily's name, then Laika's. When she finished, she sat down and did not rise again. The city wept in music. The quiet men left. Not chased, not defeated. They simply could not stand inside a city that sang. Power cannot breathe where everyone remembers. Laika painted the last wall, the highest one. A crown made of ash and stars. Inside it, a woman with paint-stained hands, a singer with wings, a man with gentle eyes, a child holding light underneath. She wrote, "We were never kings, we were keepers." She stepped back, her hands shook, not from fear, from fulfillment. Years later, Laika sat beneath her mother's mural. Children painted beside her. She said softly, "When I die, do not build statues, paint me into the walls." That night, she slept and did not wake. The city did not wear black. They painted stars. No one ruled Lunara City. Stories did. Songs did. Walls did. The crown was not gold, not power, not blood. It was a memory. It was love. It was courage shared. A little girl touched a faded crown one morning. "Who painted this?" Her mother answered, "Everyone." "And who was Laika?" The woman smiled. She was a girl who taught a city how to remember. The child lifted a brush and added a star. There is a wall in Lunara City that no one paints anymore. Not because it is forbidden, not because it is forgotten, but because it is complete. It stands near the old harbor, where the sea smells of salt and stories, and the wind carries voices that no one can see. The wall holds a crown, not gold, not jeweled, not sharp. A crown made of ash and stars, and beneath it are faces. A woman with paint on her hands, a singer with wings in her throat, a man with gentle eyes, a child holding light. People still come to that wall. They do not speak loudly. They do not touch it. They listen, because the wall does not sleep. It remembers. Lunara City did not become famous. It became human. Markets opened with songs. Schools taught children how to paint before they taught them how to count. Prisons became gardens. No one ruled. Stories ruled. A baker once said, "We used to fear the night. Now we paint it." An old woman said, "My husband died in the days of silence. Now he lives on walls." And a child once asked, "Why does everyone draw crowns?" Her mother answered, "Because once we forgot who we were, and crowns helped us remember." Long after Nix's voice had faded from the streets, her songs remained, not as music, as breath. People said that when the wind passed through narrow alleys, it sounded like she was singing. Not loud, not proud, just true. Sometimes young singers stood on rooftops and sang the old melodies. They did not know who Nix was, but the song knew them. And that was enough. Emily's brushes were kept in a glass box in the School of Walls, not as relics, as seeds. Every year, one child was chosen to use them, not the most talented, not the bravest, the kindest. Before painting, the child had to whisper, "I will paint what matters." And every year, the wall changed, because memory changes. And so must art. Laika left no statue. She left footsteps. You could still see them in the old tunnels, the broken bridges, the schoolyards, the highest wall in the city. They said if you followed the murals long enough, they would lead you to her, not to her grave, to her idea that no one owns a city, that no one wears a crown alone, that the strongest power is shared memory. One night, a little girl stood before the great mural. She asked her father, "Was Laika a queen?" He shook his head. She was a listener. The girl frowned. What did she listen to? He answered, "To the walls, to the people, to what hurt." The girl lifted her brush and added a small star to the crown. "Then I will listen too." Once, crowns were worn to rule. Then crowns were painted to resist. Now crowns were drawn to remember. They meant, we survived, we loved each other, we stayed. The crown was never powerful. It was proof that pain can become color, that silence can become a song, that dust can become dreams. Fishermen swore the sea glowed some nights. When moonlight touched the harbor, it looked like paint on water. They said the sea had learned from the city to carry stories without breaking them. And so the crown never fell, not because it was strong, but because it was shared. It lived in a child's brush, a mother's song, an old man's memory, a wall that still breathes. The story did not end with fire. It ended with color, not with kings, with keepers, not with victory, with belonging. If you ever walk through a city and see a crown painted on a wall, do not ask who made it. Ask what it remembers. Because every wall is waiting, every story is unfinished, every dream still carries dust. And somewhere, a child is lifting a brush to begin again.